A 3-year-old girl, Luo Yinyou, was struck by Bu and thrown into the air. She was flung even further, hitting 3 iron pillars. Yet, the girl not only survived but remained active. Her body was incredibly resilient. No matter how hard she fell, she couldn't be killed. This bewildered the man, Bu. He casually picked her up, intending to take her back for examination and research. The female general, Jing, looked at Yinyou with distress. Who could be so cruel? Not only did they abandon your daughter, but they also hammered nails into such a small child. Recalling the scene where Yinyou hammered the nails into Yinyou's body, Jing looked suspiciously at her general. Could it be you? How could you torture a child like this? Yinyou listened in confusion, unsure of what they were talking about. Yinyou then grabbed Yinyou back into his hands. He explained, these are Jinghuan nails, used to suppress the spirit and relieve the suffering caused by qi disorder. They sever the cycle of reincarnation. And the 3 on her head are Fenzhun nails, which seal the 3 souls and blood vessels. Jinghuan and Fenzhun nails are also known as long shifeng. The materials for these nails are extremely rare. The entire country doesn't even have enough to make 1, let alone 10. Is he bored or just rich? Yinyou then placed Yinyou on the ground and ordered his troops to rest. Looking at Yinyou's small back, Yinyou fell into contemplation. Creating long shifeng requires slaying a dragon, using its bones as nails, its blood as the medium, and its soul for suppression. Slaying a dragon, just to seal a little brat. I'm really curious what this child is. Yinyou felt uncomfortable under his gaze, as if she would be pierced by his eyes at any moment, but she was more concerned about the nails in her body. She quickly asked the system how to remove the seal. She found out that the solution would cost points. 200,000 points. When will I ever earn that? But she was hungry, so she decided to fill her belly first. Yinyou tugged on Yinyou's pants, intending to act cute and beg for food, but the tug ripped a large hole in his clothes. She couldn't see Yinyou's expression, but she felt the awkwardness around him, and saw her appear on the system interface. Using the same tactic again, she ripped another hole with a tear. Yinyou finally lost his patience, and slammed Yinyou against a tree. As Yinyou fell to the ground, the sturdy tree collapsed with a crack. Any other child would probably be dead, but Yinyou was fine. Her mental resilience was high. This should have earned her quite a few points. This shocked Jiang Ying, Yinyou's subordinate. Is this child made of iron? She's so resistant to falls. Yinyou, however, found it unsurprising. She can withstand my attacks and poisons. She's no ordinary child. A moment later, the army started setting up camp. Yinyou sat on a fallen log. After all that effort, she only earned points, especially from Mianjunan. No matter what she did, she only got from him. Jing's points were slightly higher, but her emotional fluctuations weren't significant either. Other soldiers also only gave her a maximum of points. However, there was an exception. A person named Binji often gave her all points. She wondered who he was. Yinyou brought over some food. A delicious aroma wafted out. Yinyou drooled. Yinyou looked at her with amusement. He handed her the food. Yinyou didn't expect Mianjunan to be so nice to her. She happily took a bite. The next second, her face scrunched up. This is awful. She wanted to spit it out, but she couldn't. Wasting food was forbidden in the army, so Yinyou obediently finished it. Earning points seemed too difficult. She decided to ask Mianjunan for help. Yinyou ran to Yinyou, gesturing wildly. Yinyou instantly understood. You want me to remove the long shifeng? Yinyou nodded vigorously. She learned that removing 1 nail would cost years of his lifespan, and all 10 would cost years. Yinyou's eyes dimmed. Who would sacrifice years of their life for her? Suddenly, Yinyou pulled out one of the long nails. The pain made Yinyou's nose bubble. He actually removed 1. That was years of his life. She wanted to hug him, but Yinyou dodged her with disgust. The system displayed for Yinyou's emotional fluctuation. Yinyou was surprised. It exceeded and even showed his specific emotion. Now she understood. He had emotions after all. As night fell, Yinyou sat beside Yinyou, staring at him. He could remove a Jinghuan nail so easily. This was a powerful ally. Yinyou decided to flatter Mianjunan, promising to buy him nice clothes when she was rich. Yinyou was speechless. He thought his clothes were rags. He sighed and asked her name. Yinyou replied playfully, Imbube Yinyou. The atmosphere turned cold. Mianjunan clearly didn't like that. You can call me Daran Yinyou too. The air grew even colder. Yinyou was getting impatient. Yinyou finally answered honestly, Luo Yinyou, 3 years old. Hearing her age, Yinyou was surprised. Her actions weren't like those of a 3-year-old. Yinyou pushed her luck. "What's your name, Daddy?" The system instantly showed for Yinyou. The next second, Yinyou pinned her to the ground. Suppressing his anger, he took the removed long nail and reinserted it. Yinyou cried out in pain, unable to speak coherently. She lay on the ground, defeated. "Fine, I won't mess with him." A soldier rushed over. "General, enemy troops have appeared." Yinyou was startled. Yinyou immediately ordered his troops to prepare for battle and surround the enemy. Yinyou thought he would take her along. But Yinyou picked her up and pulled out the long nail again, causing Yinyou another burst of pain. He then threw her onto a white horse. He left with his troops without looking back. Yinyou and the horse were left behind. Yinyou wanted to cry. How could he abandon her? Just then, Enjing returned. Yinyou was touched. Someone cared about her. Enjing smiled and reached out to her. Yinyou looked at her expectantly, thinking she would be hugged. But Enjing reached past her and grabbed a bag hanging from the saddle. As Enjing turned to leave, Yinyou quickly asked how many soldiers they had. Learning they only had, Yinyou was shocked. Against? Who was surrounding whom? She patted the horse, urging it to follow. She had to see how they would surround 10 times their number. The horse snorted. He wasn't stupid enough to charge into a death trap. Then, to Yinyou's horror, the horse turned and ran in the opposite direction. Yinyou almost fell off, clinging on for dear life. But she didn't expect to pull out a large clump of horsehair due to excessive force. Yinyou, the white horse, stopped abruptly. Yinyou then discovered that the horse's hair was fine and shiny, emitting a faint shimmer. She was instantly captivated. At this moment, the system interface displayed the contribution ranking. Yinyou was dumbfounded. She hadn't expected that the biggest contributor to the system points was Yinyou, the horse. On the vast snowy ground, Yinyou carried her aimlessly. Yinyou simply fell asleep on him. After an unknown amount of time, Yinyou woke up and found herself sleeping under a tree. Yinyou was grazing nearby. Yinyou wanted to explore, so she took a couple of steps forward. Unexpectedly, she bumped into someone. The person was incredibly tall. Seeing Yinyou's tattered clothes, he mistook her for a refugee child. Before Yinyou could react, she was kicked hard in the stomach. Yinyou was sent flying backward, landing directly on Yinyou. The impact severely injured them both. Both horse and girl fell to the ground. Yinyou curled up in pain, clutching her stomach. She even coughed up blood. Yinyou's emotional points flooded the system interface. But Yinyou didn't feel happy at all. That damn barbarian's kick almost killed her. Thinking of this, Yinyou stared at the man, her eyes filled with a deathly glare. She wasn't someone to be trifled with. Seeing her fierce gaze, Yinyou shivered in fear. He obediently stayed behind Yinyou, ready to flee. Looking at the man, adorned with crude silver ornaments, Yinyou grabbed Yinyou's reins. "Come on, Yinyou, let's get him." Under the cover of night, the girl and horse stealthily approached the barbarian's camp. Before entering, Yinyou patted Yinyou's head and whispered, "Don't make a sound." Poor Yinyou wanted to say he didn't want to go at all. Wasn't this a suicide mission? He wanted to turn and run, but he realized he couldn't break free from the small human's grip. In the end, he could only be dragged along by Yinyou. Yinyou's despair filled the system. "Someone, please save him." Thus, on Yinyou's system interface, Yinyou's contribution points skyrocketed. There were many soldiers stationed in the camp. Because the barbarians were naturally tall and strong, their tents were also large and sturdy. Under the cover of the tents, Yinyou and Yinyou successfully snuck into the camp. Yinyou carefully observed her surroundings, relying on her breath to stay hidden. If she were exposed, they would be drowned in the soldiers' spit. At this moment, a conversation drifted from a nearby tent. It turned out that the caddies of horses seized the previous night were only a part of the plan. They planned to use a human wave tactic to wear down DIS's elite soldiers, then take advantage of the situation to launch a surprise attack. If they could kill DIS, it would be a great achievement. Yinyou was shocked. Although the masked man always bullied her, he was the only one who could help her remove the dragon nail. He couldn't die. With that thought, Yinyou immediately asked the system how to defeat the army in front of her. The system indicated that to defeat the barbarian army, points were needed. Obviously, her points were far from enough. This made Yinyou very anxious. What should she do? She couldn't just watch them kill the masked man. Suddenly, Yinyou had a brilliant idea. A surprise attack. At this time, thousands of warhorses were huddled together, impatiently eyeing the human child. Yinyou pulled Yinyou towards them. Innocent Yinyou had no idea what she was planning. He only knew that he was about to be suffocated by the stench of horse dung. Yu's system was once again flooded with Bien Gus complaints. Yu, however, calmly greeted the horses. The horses were speechless. This human must be crazy. But soon they would know the price of underestimating Yu. Then, Bien Gu witnessed something that would shock him for a year. Yu quickly grabbed a warhorse's front leg. With a powerful heave, using the principle of leverage, she executed a perfect throw. With a thud, a kilogram warhorse was slammed to the ground. Bien Gus' emotional points surged on the system interface. But Yu didn't even bother to look. She ran to the horse's head and ripped off a chunk of its mane. Then she beckoned to Bien Gu. Under her gaze, Bien Gu could only obey. Standing on Bien Gus' back, Yu used the horsehair to try and tie up the warhorse. But the horsehair was too weak and snapped immediately. Yu sighed. She needed stronger horsehair. So, Yu turned her gaze to Bien Gu. Bien Gu trembled. What was this devil planning now? Just as she was about to reach out her evil hand towards Bien Gu, the system suddenly prompted that by spending points, it could give her the joy of completing a task. Yu's eyes lit up. There were such wonderful things. Without hesitation, she chose to spend the points. The system immediately displayed deduction complete. Remaining points. Taking control. Yu was stunned. Wait, what? Taking control. Wasn't it supposed to be task completion? Before she could react, a strange force took over her body, and she began to levitate uncontrollably. Then Yu saw herself reach out and pluck a handful of Bien Gus' tail hair. Poor Bien Gu neighed in pain. Bien Gus' emotional points immediately filled the system. Next, the system controlled Yu's body to the group of horses, using her hands to quickly tie their legs together with tight knots. After securing one horse, the system showed no signs of stopping, continuing to control Yu to pluck more of Bien Gus' tail hair. Then it moved on to the next horse, and then back to poor Bien Gu. It continued tying, completely ignoring the fact that he was just a 3-year-old foal. One after another, 2 hours later, finally, only the last horse remained. Yu was almost exhausted. She hadn't expected the system to be so persistent, refusing to stop until it finished. Raising her sore arms, she struggled to tie up the last horse's legs. Then she saw a clearing filled with neatly tied up warhorses. By now, Yu not only had no feeling in her body, but was also mentally exhausted. The system finally displayed, control relinquished. Yu felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She collapsed to the ground. Before losing consciousness, Yu couldn't help but think, oh no, I'm going to die. The next second, she fell into a deep sleep, motionless as a corpse. Bien Gu, beside her, was shocked. Was she really dead? The master had entrusted her to him. How could he explain this to the master? Thus, Yu's system was once again flooded with Bien Gus' despair. Afraid of being discovered, Bien Gu quickly scooped up Yu. With a powerful flick of his head, he fled the scene, complaining internally as he ran. His heart was full of bitterness, but he couldn't voice it. Yu slept soundly until the next morning. She woke up, looked around, and found herself in a room. There was no one else there. Then she noticed a jug and a bowl on the table beside the bed. They looked like they were used for milk. Yu's eyes lit up. She was starving. She immediately reached for the jug, pouring the liquid into the bowl. The aroma of milk filled the air, making Yu drool. As she drank, she checked the system and found that Bien Gu wasn't kidding. His contribution points filled several pages. But why was it only Bien Gu who could contribute points? If those horses from last night could also contribute, it would be a huge gain. She continued scrolling through the system, but the contributors after Bien Gu were all strangers to her. When she reached the bottom of the list, she finally found Di Yeche and the female general. Yu finally understood. They must have discovered her handiwork last night. Imagining their shocked expressions, Yu couldn't help but laugh. In high spirits, she finished the milk in one gulp. Then Yu discovered that although she had poured out a lot of milk porridge, the weight of the porridge didn't seem to decrease. Suspicious, the little girl tried to pour endlessly. She started to scoop and scoop and scoop some more. Sure enough, just as she guessed, no matter how much she poured, the milk in the pot never seemed to run out. Until finally, Yu's small belly, already round and full, couldn't hold any more. Satisfied, she burped and gave up her experiment on the capacity of the milk porridge. Suddenly she heard a slight snoring sound. She then noticed Bien Gu was lying on the edge of the bed, resting. Remembering how she was controlled by the system last night to exhaust him repeatedly in his dreams, Yu finally felt a little guilty. Moved, she reached out to touch him. Unexpectedly, Bien Gu woke up instantly. Seeing Yu, the little devil who almost turned him into a dried fish. He instinctively jumped back, but accidentally knocked over the brazier placed to the side. Immediately, the burning coals inside the brazier spilled onto the carpet. The sparks instantly ignited the carpet. Terrified, Yinyou jumped off the bed. In a panic, she tried to stomp out the fire with her feet, while Yinyou was already scared out of his wits. Because the floorboards of the room were all made of wood, the flames spread quickly. The fire was getting bigger and bigger. Without thinking, Yinyou grabbed Gus's tail and ran outside. Although she'd caused trouble, she would absolutely not abandon him. The girl and the horse ran out of the room, shouting as they went. Yinyou didn't notice that Gus's tail was on fire. Consequently, the system screen was flooded with Yinyou, the no contributor's pain. Yinyou still felt scared. Fortunately, they ran fast, otherwise, she would have been burnt to a crisp. But as soon as she turned around, Yinyou was stunned by the magnificent scenery outside. Several mountain peaks were covered with white snow. It was as if the whole world was decorated with silver. She couldn't help but tug on Gus's mane and exclaimed, "It's so beautiful." They were in a huge fortress surrounded by high walls. In the open space below, there were rows of tents and a mountain of small wooden houses. A long, winding wooden bridge connected the upper and lower areas, and several soldiers carrying fruits and vegetables were walking across it. In the training area, various weapons were placed in racks. Next door, there was a stable and a paddock. Clearly, this place had a self-sufficient living system. Yinyou was wide-eyed. This wasn't a military camp, it was a city. Just then, Yinyou saw several people walking towards them aggressively. The newcomers were unfriendly. "Kid, come with us." Inside, a group of generals were discussing the burning down of the small wooden house. Fu Xiang, one of the generals, looked distressed. "Those small wooden houses are already insufficient. Now, one is burnt down." Another deputy general, Li Xinyuan, sighed helplessly. "I promised the soldiers under my command that whoever killed the most enemies would get one." The nearby general, Hong Zi, kept glancing secretly at Yi. Having heard these people complaining, even Yi, who had seen a lot, felt a little helpless at this moment. The female general, who had been listening for a long time, finally couldn't stand it anymore. "Can you shut up? Can't you see the boss is annoyed?" The other generals all said they didn't notice. The general wears a mask all day. Who knows if he is annoyed or not? At this moment, Yi, the most imposing one, listened to them quietly. Yinyou glanced at the emotional score on the system from time to time. When she saw the prompt that Zhu Hong enjoyed adding fuel to the fire and watching the show, she couldn't help but sneak a glance at that general. Noticing her gaze, Zhu Hong turned his head and met her fearless eyes, stunned for a moment. Then he laughed. "This little brat is quite interesting." Fu Xiang stepped forward and said sorrowfully, "The burning of the small wooden house is a permanent loss. Every time the general passes by, he will feel heartbroken." "General, you can't raise your daughter in the military camp." Hearing this, Yinyou's eyes lit up. Heartbroken? Doesn't this mean he has a motive? She decided to take the blame for Yinyou. So when Yi questioned her, Yinyou fearlessly declared that she set the fire, and that she would do it again tomorrow. These words instantly stunned everyone. Good heavens! What kind of demon is this? At the same time, the system screen was flooded with emotions again. Liu drooled, watching the constantly rising score. Instinctively, she wiped her mouth, smearing soot all over her face. Yi looked at her speechlessly, full of disgust, and ordered someone to take her away to wash up. He really didn't want to see this troublemaker anymore. Soon, the girl and the horse were taken to the laundry room. Soaking in the hot water, Yinyou felt so comfortable that he almost snorted. This was the life. It was the first time Yinyou had been bathed like this. She felt relaxed and didn't want to move at all. The two girls who would be Yinyou's maids from now on were named Wendong and Kuizu. Seeing the many bruises on 3-year-old Yinyou's body, the two maids felt distressed and asked Yinyou, "Little general, were you abducted by the Han Kingdom, and then brought back by the general?" Yinyou said she fell from the sky, like, boom, smashed onto the ground. The two maids obviously didn't believe her, but Yinyou also received a lot of points from them. It was indeed much easier to gain points from ordinary maids than from those rough soldiers. But why did they call her little general? It turned out that the news that she was the general's daughter had spread throughout the entire military camp. Yi was the master of Yi army, so she was naturally the little general. Yinyou didn't expect Yi to actually not explain. Could he really consider her his daughter? At this moment, Kuizu cautiously asked Yinyou's name. Wendong immediately stopped her. How could they casually ask their master's name? "It's okay. My name is Luo Yinyou." The two maids were about to help Yinyou get dressed. When Dong suddenly reacted, "Little general, you're lost. Shouldn't you be reunited with the general?" Yinyou was waiting for this. She immediately gave them a huge shock. "Because your general has been cheated on." Wen Dong and Kui Zhu were instantly dumbfounded. At the same time, the system showed that the two directly contributed more than points. Wow, one person was worth several. Recovering, the two quickly changed the subject with a laugh. "The little general must be gifted to be brought back by the general. We swear we will serve the little general well." After washing Yinyou clean, the two helped her get dressed. Soon, Yinyou was happily jumping around in her new clothes. These clothes were very comfortable, and at a glance, they were clearly not ordinary clothes. Wen Dong praised her good eye. This was the tribute the emperor gave to the general last time. When Yinyou walked out of the room, she saw Bianjiu, wrapped in a large quilt, also waiting to be dressed. Yinyou kicked him. He took the blame for her. Shouldn't he get some reward? Bianjiu panicked, fearing she would expose him. If that happened, he would be roasted alive by those big shots. Yinyou didn't intend to make things difficult for him, but she wanted to go out for a stroll, so he had to accompany her. Bianjiu couldn't refuse, and could only nod frantically. Whatever the little devil said, it was. He stood up and wobbly followed behind her, but as soon as he stepped out of the door, he regretted it. The cold wind made him not want to go out at all. Seeing him motionless, Yinyou urged him to hurry up. The system prompted her that she was about to receive negative emotions from Bianjiu. Yinyou was speechless. She didn't know what use his big body had. She then asked Kui Zhu for a large blanket. She wrapped the blanket around Bianjiu and secured it. This was her mount. It wouldn't be good if it froze to death. Bianjiu didn't expect this little devil to be so kind. Moved, he contributed another points. The cute child leading a horse wrapped in a blanket attracted the attention of people in the military camp, who praised her. When they walked out of the dormitory area, they saw the female general, Yang Fu, sitting in the world. Yinyou led Bianjiu and greeted her cheerfully. Yang Fu, coming back to her senses, saw the adorable Yinyou. After the dirt was washed off, she finally looked like a cute child. She rubbed Yinyou's little head and praised her for being beautiful. Unexpectedly, she messed up Yinyou's hair. She quickly withdrew her hand. "Are you looking for Jiang Jun? He should be in the study now." Unaware, Yinyou apologized to her. Bianjiu, looking at the mess on Yinyou's head, almost laughed internally. However, a muffled hee sound still escaped his mouth. The system was flooded with his contributions. Yinyou didn't know what was wrong with this silly horse. His laughter was really strange. Inside the room, Yixi was very curious about Yinyou's simple little house. How could a 3-year-old doll control thousands of horses on the platform? Saying he has no secrets is unbelievable. Suddenly, he sensed something profound. Yixi didn't turn his head. "Looking for me?" Yinyou trotted to his side and asked in a small voice. "I want to ask, they all call me Xiao Jiang, am I?" When Yang, who hadn't turned around and kept his eyes on the sand table, replied, "You are if you want to be, you're not if you don't want to be." So Yinyou asked again, "Can I walk around and have a look?" Yixi, with his back to her, waved his hand impatiently. "If you're here to talk nonsense, hurry up." Yinyou immediately became cheerful and agile. "I didn't expect Mr. Mask to be so fierce, but he didn't blame me and even let me be Xiao Jiang." Yinyou, in a good mood, tiptoed towards the Junying living area in front. Now her points have reached more than, still, short of. If the thousands of people in Junying all gave her points, wouldn't that be enough? So, cuties, contribute your emotions. Da, full of fighting spirit, she pulled Bianjiu towards the crowd. Unexpectedly, the system frantically prompted. Bianjiu is in pain and uneasy. Bianjiu thought to herself, that mother. Turning around, she found that Yinyou was pulling the rope on Bian Gus's nose ring. Because of her pulling, the rope tightened around Bian Gus's neck, almost choking Bianjiu. The two arrived at the living area. As soon as they entered, they attracted a crowd of onlookers. The children in the military camp were all taken to Lingju. It was rare to see such a cute child, especially the general's child. They enthusiastically offered her food, stuffing her mouth so full that Yinyou didn't know how to speak. Before she could squeeze in, the soldiers all ran away, as if they had seen smoke. They returned shortly after, each carrying some delicious food. In a short while, Yinyou and Bianjiu were covered in food, so Yinyou ate while observing the Junying camp. She found that everyone was busy, some digging ditches, some forging weapons. This made her puzzled. Hadn't they already defeated the enemy? Why were they still doing this? Suddenly, she remembered the map of the imperial city she had just seen in Mr. Mask's study. Even the number of tunnels in the palace was clearly marked. She instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Could Yi Motu be planning a rebellion? After Yu left the study, Yi Xi came to the small wooden house where the fire was burning. Bien Gus's fur was normally fireproof, but this time it was scorched black all over, which made him puzzled. Just then, the unburned hair on the ground and the brazier caught his attention. There were still flames in the brazier. Strangely, it wasn't extinguished despite the heavy snow. Yi Xi recognized this as eternal flame, which could burn continuously even without any fuel. He suddenly understood why Bien Yinyou had almost been burned. It turned out that after Bien Yinyou brought Yu back to the camp last night, both little ones almost froze. Yi Xi ordered Yang Futong to bring a brazier to warm them. Because he felt that ordinary fire was too gentle, he took out a small portion of eternal flame and put it inside. It turned out he was the culprit who almost caused the fire. As a result, Yi Xi's system prompted that he had generated a point. But he was a general, how could he be wrong? With a wave of his hand, he extinguished the eternal flame. Just as he finished, Yu appeared behind him. Covered in soot, she threw herself into Yi Xi's arms. Yi Xi hadn't paid attention to Yu in the study just now, so for a moment, he didn't recognize that this soot-covered thing was Yu. Yu, completely unaware of her current messy appearance, tried to act cute to Yi Xi, hoping to charm him. She rubbed against his clothes, inadvertently generating a critical hit. 10 iron nails were inserted into the genitals of a 3-year-old girl. The man said she could live for at most 3 years. The girl burst into tears. She could only hug the man's thigh tightly because she knew he could help her remove the dragon nails. She kissed his thigh fiercely, hoping to win the man's sympathy, but her hair produced a critical hit as a result. Not only was his hair standing on end, but it also sparked with static electricity whenever touched, like a live wire. Because the man was wearing a mask, he didn't know what the man's expression was. But Bien Yinyou beside him was already laughing so hard he almost choked, and Yu's hair stood up even more from the laughter. What are you laughing at? I'm just electrified. Unlike a certain horse who doesn't even have any hair. These words instantly dealt a critical hit to Bien Yinyou, his contribution points directly jumping to, which made Yu's eyes shine. Next, it was the masked man's turn to suffer, so Yu turned to Yi Xi and said, Daddy. He was interrupted by Yi Xi before he could finish, I'm not your dad. The fearless Yu then said, then he'll be your dad. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere suddenly turned gloomy. At the same time, the system notified that Yi Xi's contribution had reached a perfect fans. It was that new fan again. Annoyed, Yi Xi encouraged himself to be patient. Just as he was about to continue to tease him, Yi Xi pulled something out of Yu's pocket. It was the dragon scale he had previously removed from Yu. Yu stared at him, afraid that he would put it back into his body. Yi Xi said, unsealing one dragon scale consumes 10 years of my lifespan. Do you think him that free? Yu saw that he didn't seem to be lying. He was immediately moved to tears, saying that he would definitely take care of him in his old age. Yi Xi just glanced at him indifferently. It consumes your lifespan, not mine. Before Yu could complain, Yi Xi picked him up like a chick and carried him. He walked towards the bed. He placed Yu face down on his thigh, unable to move, his fingers sliding down from his neck, opening his clothes to reveal his back. Yu was so anxious that he almost cried out, no way, this old pervert isn't going to lay his hands on me, is he? Yi Xi's mouth twitched under his mask, are you sick? Who would be interested in a green sea urchin? I'm checking your seal. Hearing this, Yu's eyes lit up instantly. Daddy has finally decided to help me remove the dragon scales. I'll be obedient. Don't get ahead of yourself. Yi Xi began to examine. He discovered that the dragon scale seal was the most powerful seal in the world, even he couldn't break it. And if it wasn't unsealed, Yu could only live for 3 years at most. Although he had removed one dragon scale, it was only because that scale seal was loose that he was able to pull it out. This time, Yu was truly afraid, his little head drooping instantly, and the electrified hair also fell down. Yi Xi was surprised to see this. His hair actually reacts to his emotions. How does he do that? It was a pity that because of the seal, he couldn't see anything. But under normal circumstances, the seal wouldn't loosen unless someone had strengthened his physique. This gave Yu a flash of inspiration, and his hair stood up again with his excitement, turning into a perfect sea urchin. He analyzed with a determined face, as long as I keep strengthening my body, the other scales might loosen and be removed. The more Yu thought about it, the more excited he became. He didn't know that the dragon scale seal was only effective against gods and demons. It was the strongest and most evil seal in the world, and breaking it was as difficult as ascending to heaven. Thinking of this, Yi Xi contributed another fan to Yu. He got up to pour him a glass of milk. Yu suddenly asked curiously, Uncle, why does that fox have endless milk? As soon as he finished speaking, the system announced that Yici had contributed 1 fan. Yici gritted his teeth and asked, "What did you call me?" Yuyu looked innocent. He wasn't allowed to call him daddy, so why was he angry? Men were truly unpredictable. But seeing Yici about to explode, Yuyu quickly corrected himself, "Uncle Yici." Yici finally resisted the urge to hit him. He then explained that the fox had a pocket dimension that stored enough milk for it to live for 10 years, though whether it could actually live that long was another matter. He handed Yuyu the glass filled with milk and prepared to return to his room. Yuyu quickly grabbed his sleeve. He hadn't returned the dragon scale yet. Such a powerful scale was definitely a good thing. He wouldn't just give it to anyone. Yici didn't expect the little guy to be so smart, knowing to keep good things for himself. Although he didn't want to return it, it wouldn't be right to refuse since he had asked for it. So Yici could only return the dragon scale. Yuyu held the dragon scale with a satisfied look. Yici's hand twitched as he watched him. What should he do? He really wanted to hit him. Early the next morning, Yuyu, leading Bianjiyu, started wandering around again to earn more merit points. Although she still needed more points, she had 3 years to do it. Even if she only earned 1 point a day, it would be enough. Humming a cheerful tune, she walked down the street in a great mood. Then she saw someone digging up earthworms ahead. Yuyu was a bit puzzled, unsure what they were planning to do. Suddenly, a rough voice called out to her. Turning her head, she saw it was Fujiang Yuhuji. What she didn't expect was that this big brute immediately started making fun of her outfit, saying she looked like a golden furnace. She could have ignored the mockery, but then even Bianjiyu joined in the laughter, giggling with amusement. The two of them just stood there, laughing at her expense. Yuyu was truly angry. She stomped back a few steps, and yelled at them, "You're the golden furnaces. Your whole family are golden furnaces." Then, quietly, she charged straight towards Yuhuji. She knocked him, along with Bianjiyu, into the ditch behind them. She also fell in. Yuhuji was completely caught off guard, never expecting to be knocked over by a little kid. What bad luck he had, but Yuyu still wasn't satisfied. She started kicking him in the stomach. "How dare you bully a child? This granny isn't a nice person." Yuhuji lay in the ditch, questioning his life choices. Were all kids these days so fierce? At the same time, the system notified her that Yuhuji had contributed crazy fan points. A moment later, Yuhuji stood up, covered in dirt, a dazed look on his face. He watched Yuyu warily. He was still sitting in the ditch, shivering uncontrollably. The system notified her again that he had contributed more crazy fan points. Yuyu then picked up a bucket and dumped a large amount of dirty water on him. Yuhuji was soaked, and Bianjiyu stood beside him, dumbfounded. The quest giver, Yici, finally, after refreshing several times, flashed before Yuyu. Yuyu sensed trouble. Before she could react, Yici grabbed them. With a whoosh, she threw both Yuyu and Bianjiyu. Poor Bianjiyu hit the ground first, and Yuyu landed on her belly. The impact made Bianjiyu want to curse. Unintentionally, Yuyu earned merit points. At the same time, Yuyu saw Yici suddenly get emotional and realized something was about to happen. She quickly jumped off Bianjiyu and dodged to the side. The next second, Yuhuji was also thrown out, landing hard on Bianjiyu again. Having suffered a second impact, Bianjiyu felt utterly hopeless. Why was he always the one getting hurt? Was there a god in heaven calling him home? When Dongchun Zhu immediately rushed to Yuyu's side and comforted her, concerned. Angrily, she defended Yuyu. Yuhuji was truly terrible. No matter what, he shouldn't bully a child. Yuyu also put on an innocent expression and agreed, exactly. He started it. Her cute appearance melted when Dongchun Zhu's heart. She continued to speak up for Yuyu, wanting to confront Yuhuji right away. The system notified Yuyu that when Dongchun Zhu had become her crazy fan, and that the two of them had contributed level crazy fan points. Yuyu was overjoyed. She hadn't expected to earn crazy fan points this way. Because Yuyu had been wrong today, Chun Zhu offered to make braised pork for her. Upon hearing braised pork, Yuyu's eyes lit up. She hadn't had a good meal since arriving. She dressed herself and eagerly waited with chopsticks in hand for the delicious food. Soon, Chun Zhu came in with a full bowl of braised pork. The enticing aroma filled the air. Yuyu couldn't wait and quickly stuffed a piece into her mouth. The next second, her head drooped. She should have known. There was no way this place had good food. Chun Zhu, seeing this, said there was plenty more in the kitchen and told her to eat her fill. Hearing this, Yuyu's hair stood on end. There was more. Without a second thought, she grabbed Bianjiyu and ran. It was too terrifying. She refused to eat such awful food. She ran aimlessly for a long time before stopping. Suddenly, she heard noises ahead. Looking up, she saw Vice General Li Yinyou training new recruits. Yinyou noticed that these recruits were all thin and frail, looking like they could be blown over by a gust of wind. They also seemed timid, acting as if they were inferior to their enemies. Yinyou couldn't help but worry. Could these people really go to the battlefield? Curious, she pricked up her ears, wanting to see how they were trained. She learned from Li Yinyou that this group of people were all refugees, but he didn't think that refugees should be discriminated against or slaughtered. He himself was a refugee from a tribe. Unbeknownst to him, of Yinyou Li's troops were refugees. This surprised Yinyou. So many soldiers were refugees. She couldn't imagine what they had gone through to become what they were today. Seeing their disbelief, Li Yinyou took off his shirt and showed them the tribal totem on his back. Although the tribe is gone, its descendants live on. His voice was resonant and powerful, instantly reigniting the confidence and belief in those timid recruits. It was such a touching scene that Yinyou was almost moved to tears. By this time, Li Yinyou had put his shirt back on. After instructing the recruits to train hard, he turned and left. Yinyou stealthily followed him, wanting to ask how he managed to command such loyalty. She noticed a piece of paper fall from him. Curiously, she picked it up and read it. She was stunned. It contained the exact same words he had just spoken. Suddenly, the system notified her that someone named Luo Yinyou was extremely excited and had contributed merit points. The next second, someone tapped Yinyou on the shoulder. A man had appeared behind her. He smiled slyly and asked, "Little girl, what's your name? Who are your parents?" Yinyou was bewildered. She was the young General Jun Li. Who didn't know her? And why was this man so excited to see her? But she was too lazy to think about it. She told him, "None of your business." The man's expression faltered, but he suppressed his anger and feigned concern. "Don't wander off, little one, or the bad uncles will catch you and eat you." Yinyou didn't know what this man was up to. Were the bad uncles he mentioned the officers of Yinyou Li? She had a bad feeling about him. Just then, Yinyou suddenly felt her nose itch. She wrinkled her nose, and a loud sneeze erupted involuntarily. A large blob of snot landed on the man's clothes. Yinyou then unceremoniously wiped her hands on his clothes. Then she looked at him innocently. "Do you really want to know my name?" The man finally lost his patience. A murderous glint flashed in his eyes. He approached Yinyou with a cold smile. "Yes, little girl. Why don't I take you to buy some candy, and you can tell me your name then?" As he spoke, he extended his hand, intending to grab her. Yinyou, not expecting him to attack, was startled. Her hair stood on end, crackling with energy. The moment the man's hand touched her hair, a jolt of electricity shot through him. The pain made him quickly retract his hand. Yinyou seized the opportunity and jumped up. She landed a hard kick on the man's kneecap. With a crack, his kneecap shattered. The man writhed in pain on the ground. Yinyou looked at him smugly. "Did you think a little girl was easy to bully?" The next second, the man yelled, "Help! The general's daughter is trying to kill me." The commotion immediately attracted the attention of others. Zhong Guan followed the sound. The man immediately played the victim. Isn't the boy Jun known as the fairest and most solemn Jun group? But Xiao Jiang wants to kill me, and you turn a blind eye. Is it because she's a girl that she's superior? Yinyou finally realized this man had malicious intentions from the start. He was deliberately provoking her. Before she could say anything, the man continued to taunt her. "Xiao Jiang, you're actually just this bastard child, picked up from outside, right?" This time, Yinyou was thoroughly enraged. "You're the bastard. Your whole family are bastards." While cursing, she used her powers again, fiercely hitting the man, sending him flying backward. After knocking him down, Yinyou continued to pummel him. The onlookers felt their teeth ache, witnessing the relentless beating. They were all shocked by her ferocity. As a result, Yinyou's system rating skyrocketed. Yinyou stopped, satisfied, and even thanked the old man for boosting her rating. Just then, Zhu Hong from the lower lake came looking for her. "Xiao Jiang, Lianjiang Jun asked me to take you to see him." The 3-year-old girl possessed immense strength. With a single punch, she could shatter an adult's kneecap. She could beat him to the point where he couldn't fight back. However, Yinyou's violent behavior had been witnessed. Currently, Yinyou and the badly beaten Luo Yinyou were brought to Yici. The two deputy generals, Yang Futong and Kong Dun, watched this scene speechlessly. They didn't expect an adult man to be no match for a 3-year-old girl. Yang Futong spoke first, asking Yinyou why she hit the man. Yinyou replied indifferently, "He called me a bastard. In her past life, she was an orphan. The word bastard is hurtful to her. Everyone looked at Yi. Because he was wearing a mask, no one could see his expression. So, Yang Futong turned to Dong Guoyi and asked, "What's your name? Why did you verbally attack Xiao Jiang?" Dong Guoyi replied, "My name is Li Xingliang, I'm 24 years old." Before he could finish, the excited Zhu Hong interrupted him. "What did you say your name was? Which Xing, which Liang? Which tribe are you from?" Li Xingliang quickly corrected himself. I got separated from my family when I was 5, and I don't know which tribe I belong to." Yang Futong and Kong Dun exchanged glances. He was lying. The system clearly stated his name was Dong Guoyi. Before you could think further, Zhu Hong joyfully ordered someone to bring in Li Xingyuan. His lost younger brother had been found. The name, age, and the age he got lost all matched. There couldn't be a mistake. This large-scale family reunion scene left Yu dumbfounded. What kind of brother was this? Lian looked towards Yi, but he remained in his original posture, showing no change in expression. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. Helpless, Yu could only ask the system, "What is Dong Guoyi's true identity?" The system responded. "Intelligence costs points. Intelligence costs points." Yu instinctively flipped the bird at the dog system. She only had a little over points saved, and it wanted just to open its mouth. Without hesitation, she chose intelligence. After the system deducted the points it displayed. Dong Guoyi is a spy. Yu was startled. She had a feeling this person was suspicious, but she didn't expect him to actually be a spy. Watching that pighead continue to act, Yu couldn't stand it any longer. Taking a deep breath, she pointed at him and shouted, "He's not General Li's brother. His name isn't Li Xingliang. His name is Dong Guoyi, and he's a spy." Hearing this, Yang Futong released his grip on Dong Guoyi. Dong Guoyi fell to the ground with a thud, the pain in his knees causing him to cry out. Enduring the intense pain, he glared at Yu incredulously. How could she know? From the system's prompt, it was clear that he was now in deep trouble. He angrily accused Yu of slander. Yu just looked at Yi. "Do you believe him or me?" Yi simply looked at her expressionlessly. Then, he threw a dagger at Yu's feet. "Since you say he's a spy, kill him." Yu froze, dumbfounded. He wants me to kill someone. He threw a dagger at his 3-year-old daughter's feet, wanting her to kill the man in front of him, right in front of his eyes. Yu was instantly thunderstruck. She was still a child. How could she kill someone? Yet, Yi was so certain when he accused the other man of being a spy. Did he dare her to prove it? He suspected Yu was lying. Yu clenched her fists angrily. "I'm not lying." But even so, Yi insisted she kill the man as proof. If she didn't dare, it meant she was lying. And in the boy army, lying came with a price. At this moment, Yu was utterly cornered. But if she didn't do it, the one dying might be her. Thinking of this, Yu tremblingly pulled out the dagger. Seeing this, Dong Guoyi finally scrambled to his feet, desperately trying to prove he wasn't a spy. Yi didn't spare him a glance, only staring intently at Yu. Under the immense pressure from Yi, Yu had no choice but to point the dagger at Dong Guoyi. Seeing that deception was useless, Dong Guoyi dropped the pretense and unleashed a killing intent, aiming to kill Yu in one blow. Before Yu could react, Yi vanished in a flash, reappearing behind Dong Guoyi, pinning him down with his foot. In the chaos, Yu accidentally stabbed Dong Guoyi in the back. The dagger pierced through him. The strong smell of blood made Yu freeze in place. Yi looked at her impassively. In this world where the strong rule, you have to be ruthless to survive. He retrieved the dagger from Yu's hand as if it was summoned, returning it to its sheath. Yu didn't react, staring blankly at her blood-stained hands, still immersed in the fear of having killed someone. She didn't even notice when Yi and the others left. As the sky darkened, Yu walked towards her residence, lost in a daze. Halfway there, exhausted, she crouched down in the snow, curling up into a ball. This world is too scary. I'm only 3 years old. Why do I have to do such cruel things? A familiar voice echoed in the darkness. Yu looked up towards the source of the sound, and found Li Xingyuan, holding a torch, seemingly searching for something, his forehead covered in sweat. Yu took out the note she had picked up earlier and handed it to him. "General Li, are you looking for this?" Li Xingyuan saw that it was indeed the note he had lost, and rushed over with incredible speed. After burning it, he breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at Yu, wanting to ask if she had eaten, but hesitated. Yu, however, was more interested in the purpose of the note. But before she could speak, Li Xingyuan interrupted her. What note? I don't know what you're talking about. Zhu Jiangjun is still looking for me, so I'll be going now. Just as he turned around, he heard Yu say, it might be about your long-lost younger brother. Li Xingyuan was taken aback. His mother only gave birth to him. Where did this younger brother come from? Haha, looks like there's some excitement to be had, Li Xingyuan said with a grin, running towards Yi. Yu was left alone in the cold wind, bewildered. What? Li Xingyuan didn't have a younger brother. Holy crap. So they knew Dongguo Yi was a fake all along, right? Back inside, the scene of the fight had been cleaned up. Zhu Hong lifted Dongguo Yi's body. He was lost in thought. How could you know that this man was a spy? And what was with the lightning in her hair? Yang Futong also felt that Yu's character was too ruthless. Could she be the boss offspring? Yi sighed. I've told you countless times, that girl fell from the sky. Yang Futong replied, no matter where she came from, she's so pretty, it's not bad to keep her as a daughter-in-law. Zhu Hong, however, thought Yu was too much trouble. Staying in the military camp all day, causing trouble, how bad is that? The two of them were really arguing. Unexpectedly, Yizi suddenly blurted out, in the future, I want him to be the commander of the Dai army. The sudden bomb instantly stunned the two below. Boss, has he already decided on a successor? On the other side, Yu dragged his bruised body back to his room. As soon as he entered the door, he threw the wooden gun given by Wendong Kuizu on the ground. Unhappily, he contributed G of documents. Facing their concerned inquiries, Yu just said expressionlessly that he had organized the documents. Wendong Kuizu and the other was greatly relieved. No matter what happened, it was good that the little general was fine. The two of them blindly took Yu to take a hot bath. At night, due to physical and mental exhaustion, Yu slept very soundly. Bian Jiu slept on the bed beside him. In his dream, he was running in the snow, flicking his short hair. Then Yu was awakened by the hunger in his stomach. He dazedly stepped on Bian Gus's body, wanting to get out of bed to find milk. The heavy feeling made Bian Jiu unable to get up. He seemed to be dreaming that he was crushed by a big rock. Yu really drank the milk paste on the table dizzily. Glug glug glug, he drank several large cups. So good. After drinking enough milk, Yu stepped on Bian Gus's body again, and climbed back onto the bed to continue sleeping. Bian Jiu was finally woken up by him. Looking up at the sweetly sleeping Yu, he felt wronged and complained in his heart. Baby is bitter, but baby can't say it. Early the next morning, Yang Futong waited at Yu's door with 2 dark circles under his eyes. Learning that Yu hadn't woken up yet, he said he could wait here until he woke up. Yu had already woken up when he heard his voice, thinking there was something urgent to find him. Driven by curiosity, Yu jumped out of bed to see what they were up to. His feet stepped hard on Bian Gus's head, making Bian Jiu cry out in pain. Yu ignored him and ran to the door with messy hair. Yang Futong didn't have time to greet him. Zhu Hong arrived just in time. Angrily, Yang Futong picked up Yu and was about to run. Little general, today, no, I will train you from today on. Zhu Hong pushed Yang Futong away directly. Little general, don't follow him. You will become a King Kong Barbie. Follow me to study literature. What a joke. If he could be the future commander's teacher, wouldn't he be able to walk sideways in the army in the future? The two immediately sparked, unwilling to give in to each other. Yu looked at the two arguing, and was completely confused. Why were these two fighting to teach him cultivation? Before he could figure it out, he saw Yi walking over. He told him to go to the study after washing up. He would personally teach him cultivation. This made Yu even more confused. What was going on? One by one, they were all scrambling to teach him. The boss personally came. Yang Futong was instantly dumbfounded. He had waited all night in vain. The fearless Zhu Hong still laughed at his misfortune. Yang Futong swiped out his meter broadsword. I must beat him up today. The two just chased and fought in the snow, having a good time. Yu looked at their backs, his small mouth wide open. Wow, they are really fighting. At the door of the study, Yu, who had finished washing up, hesitated to go in. He didn't know what the masked man wanted to teach him. Could it be that he wanted to take him to rebel? The next second, the door was opened from the inside. Seeing Yu's messy hair, Yi was instantly speechless. What are you doing, rubbing your head like that? Without waiting for Yu to reply, he directly lifted him by the back of his collar and walked inside. After entering the study, he put Yu down. What caught Yu's eye was a wall full of maps, detailed to the point of marking how many streets there were. No, I haven't decided whether to rebel or not. Let me think about it. Yi looked disbelieving. Who said he was going to rebel? He didn't even look at the human monarch. Yinyou rolled his eyes. You're amazing, you're aloof. The next second, he was lifted by Yinyou again. He was casually thrown onto a table nearby. Then Yinyou sat down in front of him. From today onwards, he would teach him military strategy, cultivation, and killing. Yinyou didn't know why he suddenly wanted to teach him these things, but in order to strengthen his body and remove the wind curse, he had no reason to refuse. Just as he was lost in thought, Yinyou suddenly leaned closer to him. Your soul is not just 3 years old. The unexpected words almost made Yinyou jump out of his skin. How did he know? And he looked so certain. Had he acted too maturely? Or was the masked man also a transmigrator? Thinking of this, Yinyou decided to test him. So he made a gesture of holding a wine glass towards Yinyou and said, "A toast to absent friends." Yinyou showed a confused look. Yinyou was speechless. Playing dumb wasn't very local, was it? At this time, Yinyou touched his head with his hand, and a strong electric current suddenly appeared. It seems that the wind curse is loosening. The bloodline has signs of breaking through. Looking at the electric current on Yinyou's hand, Yinyou was dumbfounded. It looked very powerful. So what kind of bloodline was he? Yinyou poked his messy hair again, and immediately another electric current was generated, which even exploded his hair. Isn't it obvious? Thunder bloodline. Yinyou touched his exploded hair. He still had many things he didn't understand. If he started cultivating now, he wondered if he could break the wind curse within 3 years. He was told that it would be very difficult. The condition for casting the dragon sand wind curse was to slay a dragon with a dragon's evil aura on his body. It would be very difficult to cultivate normally, but Yinyou said he would try his best to help him remove the curse on his back, but the wind curse on his head could only be relied on by himself, as it was a matter of the soul. He suggested that he could practice controlling dreams or focusing on cultivating a powerful soul, which might be useful. After saying that, he lifted him up. But since I've helped you, you have to help me too. Yinyou said, just say what you want me to do. Yinyou put him back on the table after hearing this and didn't say what it was, only saying that he didn't have much time left and asked Yinyou to wait a moment. Then he turned and left. Yinyou was puzzled. Did he mean he was about to die? Before he could figure it out, he saw Yinyou bring in a large pot. He placed it on the ground with a clang. Then he asked Yinyou if he had any other questions. Seeing Yinyou shake his head, he picked him up again. Since there's nothing else, let's get started. Can a 3-year-old take an acid bath? He held the bath tub and poured water into it. Yinyou looked at the large pot full of water and thought it was for a bath. But when he looked at Yinyou, a bad premonition came to mind. Yinyou took out a pile of bottles and jars of dangerous chemicals. He poured them into the water one after another. Yinyou's head was about to explode watching this. What the hell was this? Why wasn't this bath water romantic at all? And it kept bubbling. Was this really for human use? Finally, Yinyou ignited a red lotus flame in his palm. He threw it into the water with a whoosh. Instantly, the bubbling water turned crimson, emitting a sizzling sound. Yinyou was finally satisfied and gestured to Yinyou that he could begin. Yinyou broke out in a cold sweat. Wouldn't taking a bath with this thing melt his bones? But in order to strengthen his body, he could only brace himself. Yinyou started to undress with a look of resignation. Yinyou looked at him with a puzzled expression and asked what he was doing. Yinyou was also questioned. Isn't tempering just getting naked and soaking in it? That's how it's written in novels. Yinyou, who had resigned from his profession and made shocking remarks, said, this is for drinking. Yinyou's eyes widened instantly. The poisonous liquid made it hard for him to open his mouth. Yinyou, seeing his reluctance, directly picked up the vat and poured it into Yinyou's mouth. Yinyou almost choked to death. Yinyou explained while pouring, tempering is meant to strengthen the physique. It's a rather cruel method, usually done after cultivating qi, but Yinyou's case is special with the seal. We have to do it the other way around. First, forcibly strengthen his physique to loosen the seal, then attempt cultivation. An ordinary person's body might explode undergoing tempering. Yinyou wanted to see if Yinyou would explode. When Yang's hair stood on end. So, Hes using him as a lab rat. Yinyou was force-fed a whole vat of medicine by Yinyou. He only put the vat down after the last drop was drunk. Yinyou didn't expect to actually finish such a large vat of liquid. He didn't even feel full. When Yang immediately decided on another round. Yinyou was dumbfounded. Does he think Hes a water buffalo? Even water buffaloes don't drink like this. But he could only watch as the general prepared another batch of tempering liquid while explaining the stages of cultivation. Yinyou quickly took out a pen and notebook. He He listened to Yi Ci explain the ranks from high to low. Heaven, earth, profound, and yellow. This was an ancient classification of cultivation realms. Even in an era of universal martial arts, true imperial martial realm experts were rare. Yinyou listened attentively, his small hand scribbling notes rapidly. Yi Ci paused, glanced at him, and continued, this world's continents are divided into 5 major regions. We are currently in the northern region. It's plagued by constant natural disasters, and is the most desolate and backward area. There are 2 countries here. The Northern Yinyou Kingdom and the Hanjiao Kingdom. There are 4 regions. East, South, West, and North. The 5th region surrounds the entire landmass, a buffer zone separating the 4. It's a dangerous land inaccessible to ordinary people. The Ghost Domain. It's inhabited by all sorts of demons and monsters. Yinyou's eyes lit up upon hearing Ghost Domain. A place with ghosts. Sounds fun. Wen Yang's face darkened. He didn't expect him to think of such a terrifying place as fun. Yinyou thought, what's there to be afraid of? He has the general as his backing. He can just do as he pleases. He then asked Yi Ci to tell him about the Northern Yinyou Kingdom. He learned that it was where Yi Ci grew up. Although not a great place, he didn't want the country to perish. Another batch of tempering liquid was ready. This one looked even more ferocious. Yinyou's scalp tingled at the sight, but he could only obediently open his mouth. There was no escape. As expected, the general picked up the basin and poured it down his throat. When only a little liquid remained in the vat, Yinyou's belly was about to burst, and the effects were kicking in. He felt his cells rapidly tearing, dividing, and merging. It was a feverish sensation, but not unpleasant. Yi Ci felt it was enough. He wanted to extinguish the remaining tempering liquid, and continue tomorrow, at the same rate. Yinyou quickly stopped him. Such good stuff, how can we waste it? Give it to big brother Bianjiu. When Yang almost peed his pants in fear, Bianjiu cried out in terror. Contribution points, reaching a total of. Meanwhile, Yang Futong and Zhu Hong were still fighting. They had been at it for a whole day without a victor. The crowd mocked Zhu Hong for knowingly picking a fight with the newly arrived general. Li Xingyuan and Yu Huzi, upon hearing this, also started to go at Zhu Hong. They despised such underhanded tactics, especially Zhu Hong, who always appeared friendly on the surface, but was actually malicious. They couldn't stand him, so the 2 generals excitedly went to place bets. A soldier had set up a gambling stall, calling everyone to bet on General Fu in support. General Fu is the second-in-command of the cavalry. He'll definitely beat Zhu Hong. With such persuasion, the 2 generals, without a second thought, bet all their money. Zhu Hong's face darkened. He used the shrinking the earth to an inch technique, dodging Yao Fu's attack in a flash, and appearing behind him. A swift chop to the neck, and victory was his. Zhu Hong said proudly, this is the shrinking the earth to an inch technique Master Lao taught me. He didn't teach you, did he? The soldier immediately packed up his stall. Grabbing the money bag, he vanished on the spot. The 2 generals were dumbfounded. They realized that man was Qiu Rongshuan, a subordinate of Zhu Hong. They had been tricked again. Zhu Hong mocked them, calling them fools and idiots. The generals, enraged, chased after him, demanding their money back. Zhu Hong ran for his life. He turned around and collided with Bianjiu, and landed a solid kiss. Zhu Hong and Bianjiu tumbled to the ground, scattering silver pieces. But he wasn't worried about the general's might. After all, the competition's rules prevented them from attacking. His smug look almost infuriated the generals. Just then, Yinyou arrived, chasing after Bianjiu. He saw the scattered silver. Without hesitation, he squatted down and started collecting it. The 3 could only watch, tears welling up, forcing smiles to hide their distress. The little general was the future leader chosen by Boss Yi. They dared not offend him for some measly silver. So, when Yinyou asked whose silver it was, Li Xingyuan and Yu Huzi's hearts ached. They involuntarily offered another dozen pieces. Even bolder, Zhu Hong declared the money ownerless, finders keepers. The 2 generals gritted their teeth. This bastard is too cunning. Yinyou contributed another points. Hearing the silver was his, Yinyou was overjoyed. Zhu Hong cursed inwardly. This little brat didn't leave a single piece. Since Yinyou's hands were full, Wen Yang thoughtfully handed him a pouch. Yinyou, clutching the pouch full of silver, and pulling Bianjiu, headed back. Bianjiu was terrified. Then, they heard heart-wrenching screams from the room, like a pig being slaughtered. Li Xingyuan and Yu Huzi, who had secretly followed, broke out in a cold sweat. Did the little general eat Bianjiu alive? No matter what, they had to get their money back today. The little general is a child. Worst case scenario, they could just snatch it back. The next second, Yinyou kicked open the door, dragging Yinyou out. Yinyou was motionless, like a dead dog. They were stunned. Did the little general kill Yinyou? Yinyou, seeing them, gave a sweet smile, which looked like a demonic grin in their eyes. Their souls almost left their bodies. They immediately knelt and begged for mercy. The system was spammed with notifications. Yinyou was puzzled. Are these two idiots? Undone to nourish the little general, made braised pork belly for him every day. Yinyou, frightened, clung to his milk bottle. He just wanted milk, not this dark cuisine. News of Yinyou's murder spread like wildfire, terrifying everyone. Yinyou, clutching his bottle, fled to the market. Seeing him, everyone panicked. Some were so scared they couldn't move. Yinyou screeched to a halt. What are they afraid of? The residents, who were just moments ago enthusiastic towards him, now looked at him with the same terror, as if they had seen a ghost. Some even took to their heels and ran. Yinyou pointed his finger, completely baffled and clueless about the situation. Unbeknownst to him, he was still followed by shadow guards, responsible for monitoring the every move of the young general. Yinyou arrived at a candy stall, holding a drink Jin had given him, wanting to buy some candy. However, the stall owner, pretending he couldn't make change, tried to refuse him. Yinyou immediately threatened him, "Take my money, or I'll eat you." The terrified stall owner could only tremble, as he accepted the single coin. At the same time, he contributed some experience points. The shadow guard also broke out in a cold sweat. Zhu Hong simply didn't want to admit that this simpleton was one of his subordinates. But then he thought of someone who would enjoy a good show. So he called Nzi. He instructed her to tell Hu Ji and Li Xingyuan that the young general was craving sweets again. 2. However, once this news spread, it became, "Brothers, run. The young general is going to eat people, and she wants to eat candy standing up. Quickly hide all the sweets." Yinyou had no idea what had happened today, but with a large increase in experience points every day, he was overjoyed. While undergoing body refinement and consolidating experience points, he felt a double sense of security. His face was distorted with delight. So when Yinyou returned to the barracks, Yinyou was so frightened that he lost his composure. Because the Yinyou he saw was like a demon from hell, he immediately ran out with a scream. Experience points directly gained. That night, rumors spread throughout the military camp that the young general had killed someone. Several soldiers gathered in the barracks to discuss the incident. One soldier said with a serious face, "Every full moon, the young general goes on a killing spree. Like a hungry ghost, she'll twist people's necks and then devour them." He even claimed to have witnessed it himself. The other soldiers were frightened. They had also heard that the general eats children. Like father, like daughter. By this time, one soldier was already desperate to relieve himself. He mumbled Hu Ji and was about to go out. The next second, a terrified scream pierced the night sky. Everyone in the tent rushed out, only to run into Yinyou, who, due to the successful body refinement, was completely transparent like a ghost. The entire military camp erupted in chaos, with everyone screaming and running in all directions, yelling, "The ghost has come back for revenge." Poor Yinyou was utterly confused. What ghost? He didn't know he was dead. He looked down at his own body, and was so shocked that he fainted. This time, he really was going to die. He fainted dead away. This time, he really might die. Yinyou, hidden in the shadows, snickered darkly. He thanked his brothers for contributing experience points. Meanwhile, Yi Si was practicing his swordsmanship, when a figure suddenly appeared out of thin air. Yi Si reacted swiftly, parrying the blow with his sword. Zhu Hong's attack was abruptly broken, and he quickly retreated. Yi Si complimented him, saying his movements were good, but his hidden aura wasn't refined enough. Zhu Hong blushed. "Boss, you're too strong. But I have urgent news. The two princesses are already on their way, and will arrive in 2 days. The general has ordered me to cause some trouble to prevent them from approaching the camp. However, I'm more concerned about Yinyou. I heard she still can't get used to the food here, and runs around all day with milk paste. The general is worried. She's still growing. How can she only drink milk? We need to find a solution." On the other side, the little cat demon was stirring up trouble again. As usual, he teased Yinyou, claiming that body refinement was beneficial for him. Yinyou angrily charged at him. He had the nerve to say that. Yinyou gained another wave of experience points, reaching a total of. He also received a diamond heart. Just then, 2 guards excitedly ran over, shouting, "Young general, you have more food." Upon hearing the word food, Yinyou immediately turned and ran. He didn't want to be tortured by these 2 again. However, the guards said it wasn't them. It was Steward Zhong, who was an excellent cook. Yinyou hesitated, still feeling apprehensive. But seeing Bien Gus's eager anticipation for Steward Zhong's arrival, she started to believe them. Soon, Yi Xi arrived with Steward Zhong, politely saying that Yu was mischievous and apologizing for troubling the old man. Steward Zhong, however, chuckled. Praising the cute and adorable little girl, he brought out high-quality snacks from Yongan City. Beef jerky, sugar-coated dumplings, and jujube cake. Steward Zhong carefully wrapped each item in oil paper. He patted Yu's head lovingly. The food in the camp isn't good, is it? Don't worry, I'll cook for you from now on. The old man's affection for Yu was evident. Yu was deeply touched. She didn't expect this grandpa to be so fond of her upon their first meeting. The 3-year-old demon had 2 faces. She could be ruthless to her enemies, but she could also be sweet and cuddly with her elders. Today, Steward Zhong arrived and brought a lot of snacks for Yu. Yu couldn't hold them all, and one package fell to the ground. The wrapping came undone, and the snacks scattered. Yu's face fell. They are dirty now. Can I still eat them? Steward Zhong patted her head apologetically. I'm so old and muddled. The young general is still so small. You can't carry so many things. I have another storage ring. You can put things inside, and it won't be heavy. He started rummaging through his pockets, eager to give Yu everything he had. Yi Xi couldn't bear to watch anymore and interrupted him. Use the things I gave you. I'll carry her things. Steward Zhong smiled and said, Young master, I'm using them. I use them to store ingredients. I bought lots of good things and put them inside to bring here and cook for the young general. Yi Xi pointed at the large pot on his back. You even put this iron pot inside. I'm tired just looking at you carrying it all day. Steward Zhong shook his head in refusal. That won't do. If I put the iron pot inside, it'll taint the ingredients. Yi Xi was speechless. He remembered giving Steward Zhong 2 storage rings. But Steward Zhong innocently explained, meat and vegetables need to be stored separately. Yi Xi was utterly defeated. Yu couldn't help but burst into laughter. Yi Xi sighed helplessly and handed over 2 brand new storage rings. Is this enough now? Steward Zhong looked a bit embarrassed but obediently accepted them. He had just finished thanking Yi Xi when he turned around and gave the prettiest one to Yu. This red one is beautiful. It matches our young general's rosy cheeks. Yu immediately looked at Yi Xi, who had darkened his face and was glaring at her, threateningly saying, You dare. Steward Zhong immediately intervened, disapprovingly telling Yi Xi not to scare Yu. Yu's eyes lit up. She seemed to have discovered the secret to suppressing the masked man. She immediately put on a sweet expression and said, Steward Grandpa, I don't know how to use it. Steward Zhong's heart melted and he patiently taught her how to use it. She slowly opened the storage ring, and the snacks in her right hand were sucked inside. Then Steward Zhong placed the ring around Yu's neck. This ring is like a storage space. You can put things you can't carry inside. It can hold quite a lot. Yu immediately hugged Steward Zhong's leg and acted cute, releasing the full force of human cuteness. Yi Xi was speechless. This little brat is good at pretending. Where's that expressionless, sharp-eyed look from the training ground a few days ago? Why don't you show that to your steward grandpa? He coughed, interrupting the heartwarming interaction between the old man and the young girl. It's getting late. Steward Zhong finally turned around and addressed Yi Xi. Yes, it's getting late. The young general must be hungry. I'll go cook for her now. Yu eagerly grabbed Steward Zhong's hand and sweetly said, Yu wants to cook with Steward Grandpa. Steward Zhong's heart melted even further. His happiness translated into experience points. Watching the two walk away happily, Yi Xi felt completely ignored. His face darkened instantly. He snapped, Did I say you could go? You don't want your body refinement training anymore. Yu's face paled as she remembered the horrific taste from yesterday. She looked at Steward Zhong with teary eyes and pleaded, Steward Grandpa, Yu needs body refinement. Can you make me some delicious food after I'm done? Yi Xi grabbed her by the scruff of her neck and dragged her away. Stop talking nonsense and come with me. Yu, with a drooping face, waved goodbye to Steward Zhong. Steward Zhong distressfully agreed, Exactly, young master, you go quickly. This old servant will prepare the meal right away. Back in his room, Yu resumed his original form, jumping onto the table, crossing his short legs, hands on his hips, looking like a little scoundrel. Yi Xi couldn't help but sneer, You act so obedient in front of Steward Zhong. I didn't realize you had 2 faces. Yu retorted with a grin, Aren't you also very obedient to Grandpa Steward? I didn't realize you actually cared about anyone. Yi Xi's expression turned cold. You won't be so smug for long. Yu wasn't afraid. It's just kui tea. It's not like I haven't had it before. Yi then held a large basin of kui tea and poured it all down Yu's throat. Yu's face scrunched up. Today's kui tea tasted different from before, making it particularly difficult to swallow. As the kui tea was absorbed, Yu rolled on the table, his body feeling like it was being torn apart, making him cry out in pain. Yu cried out in agony, Yi, what did you give me? It hurts so much. Yi watched with amusement, replying brightly, kui tea. Only it's been boiled over fire for times faster absorption. I see you have a high tolerance. Want some more? Yu was so angry he wanted to curse, but the pain from the kui tea gradually intensified. He felt his whole body burning. His bones felt like they were being ripped apart and reassembled. He had no strength to speak. Even Yi couldn't help but feel worried, asking if he could still hold on. But Yu couldn't answer. He was in too much pain, his body trembling uncontrollably. Yi reached out, gently stroking his small back. Somehow, her power helped Yu alleviate the intense pain. He finally sighed in relief. Rolling over and lying flat on the table, he felt like he had come back to life. Yi teased coldly, little one, still going to challenge me next time. Yu weakly admitted, I'm wrong. But in the next second, he sat up, stubbornly adding, I'll still dare next time. The cold sweat on his face hadn't even dried yet, but he had a defiant expression. Yi's face darkened, speechless. Her emotions fluctuated dramatically, contributing another emotion point. Yu secretly smirked. He had both angered Yi and gained emotion points, killing two birds with one stone. Yu was covered in sweat from the kui tea, enough to condense into water. Yi immediately urged him to change his clothes, saying he smelled terrible. Yu ignored her, as if he hadn't heard anything, directly shaking off the condensed sweat. Jumping off the table, he mischievously waved goodbye to her. His eyes full of playful mischief, he happily ran outside. This evil woman thought she was a princess, whipping a 3-year-old child, wanting to beat him to death. But Yu wasn't someone to be bullied. He immediately rushed to the evil woman and secretly stole her water. Who didn't know he was Bei Yujun's precious son? He had to eat more than dishes every day. Since Steward Zhong arrived, Yu finally started eating normally. It turned out that it wasn't the food of this world that was inedible, but that they didn't know how to cook. Bian Guwen and Xiang Wei both wanted to be assertive, but Yu, this food-hoarding brat, stole the food. Bian Jiyu almost fainted on the spot. It was Steward Zhong who desperately intervened, promising Bian Jiyu his own meal in the kitchen, and prepared a feast for him. Bian Jiyu happily headed towards the kitchen, but he saw a maddening scene. Yu was hiding there, eating Bian Gus's meal, leaving nothing for him. Bian Jiyu furiously chased after the little thief. Meanwhile, on the road leading to Yongan City from the south, a majestic procession was making its way forward. 2 luxurious carriages were surrounded by a large escort, creating a grand spectacle. A woman's impatient voice came from inside the carriage. Why are we so slow? At this speed, when will we reach the Bai army camp? The soldier respectfully replied, Princess Yuyang, this area experiences heavy snowfall year-round. Our horses are not suited for the snow. We suggest that the princess proceed to Yongan City for a rest. Princess Yuyang scoffed disdainfully, what a desolate place. Fine, let's go to Yongan. But she wanted Yongan to become Yi's burial ground after he submitted to her. The carriages then changed direction and slowly headed towards Yongan City. Meanwhile, in the Bai army camp, after eating his fill, Yu went to the new recruits' camp to cause trouble. The recruits panicked at the sight of him, screaming and running away. But they were caught by the little devil Yu. He kicked them, making them cry out in pain. Looking at the rapidly increasing emotion points, Yu laughed triumphantly, too weak, you chickens. At that moment, Bian Jiyu ran over from afar, grabbed him, and ran back. Yu was bewildered, wondering what was going on. Soon, Bian Jiyu carried Yu to Yi's study, and threw him inside. Yu fell to the ground with a thud. Then he was picked up by the collar by Yi. Yu struggled angrily, can you stop carrying me around? I'm a person with dignity. But Yi ignored him and ordered their departure. Steward Zhong was worried, you can't let the young master ride by himself. What if he falls and hits his head? Yi almost laughed. You should be worried that his head will crack the ground. Everyone burst into laughter. The young master has an iron head. His head can smash a mountain. Yang Futong's reaction was even more exaggerated, tears streaming down his face. Yu angrily retorted, you have the iron head. Your head can smash a cow. Yi, annoyed by their bickering, interrupted them and ordered their departure for Yongan City. So the three, along with Yu, set off in the heavy snow. Yinyou, on a small horse, rode between two tall war horses. Yinyou complained about the two slowpokes, bored to the point of yawning. Yinyou was also sleepy, dreaming of Grandpa Steward's delicious food. Unfortunately, he could only drink tea on the road. That woman was really too heartless. But Yici was actually quite wealthy, possessing many good things. For example, this small porcelain bottle contained medicine that could maintain the effects of tea. After drinking it, Yu felt full of energy and felt his physique strengthen. Finally, the three arrived at Yongan City. The city was newly built, tall and majestic, with clean and wide roads paved throughout. Yang Futong couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect Yongan City, which was a wasteland 5 years ago, to be so prosperous now. Zhu Hong said admiringly, that dog, but stopped mid-sentence upon meeting the other two's gazes. He quickly changed his words. Our incomparably bright and great emperor naturally trusted Boss Yes' abilities, entrusting him with the management of this desolate place, Lingju. Yinyou was slightly surprised. Was the place the emperor gave so useless before? And Zhu Hong just called the emperor a dog. The three then entered the city gates. Yinyou was quickly attracted by the shops on both sides, especially the fragrant roasted chicken, which made him drool. Although he had gained quite a few emotion points in the army camp, seeing delicious food still made him drool, earning him a few more points. Yinyou kindly suggested, since Yang Futong also wants to eat, let's buy two. One for you, one for me, how about that? Yang Futong was immediately thrilled, great. I love this shop's roasted chicken. But then Yinyou held out his small hand, asking for money. If you want roasted chicken, you have to give me the money. Yang Futong, not expecting Yinyou to be so cunning, resignedly contributed emotion points. He obediently handed over the money. Yinyou secretly chuckled again, thinking, unexpectedly, General Fu is so easily swayed. Just wait and see how I'll handle him in the coming days. Afterwards, he bought 2 portions without eating any. He even bought 2 more portions and stored them in a Qianquan bag, saving them for later. Zhu Hong also tried the same method to trick Yinyou, but Yinyou was an anti-trick expert. Even a seasoned con artist would be impressed. How can you even take a child's pocket money? She asked. Zhu Hong wanted to grab her by the pigtails. That's clearly my pocket money. He exclaimed. Yinyou didn't think so at all. This is clearly the pocket money of the silly duo. She retorted. Zhu Hong was utterly exasperated. How can this little brat be so unreasonable? Yang Futong couldn't stand it anymore. You two are really too stingy. I'll buy it, okay? He said, then quickly ran off. Yinyou immediately aimed for Yang Futong's pocket, thinking, are there still people in this world who rush to spend money on others? Zhu Hong suddenly praised loudly, as expected of the strongest logistics general of the boy army. General Fu is truly magnificent. Although Yinyou didn't understand what was going on, she also joined in the flattery. Anyway, this old fox definitely won't cheat himself. Might as well praise him first. She thought. Sure enough, Yang Futong was instantly overjoyed and declared he would buy all the delicious food in Yongan City for Yinyou. Yinyou was overjoyed. This trick really worked. So, the two of them went to the Yongan Marquis mansion to wait. On the way, they passed the Mingshuiguan, the place where children under the age of 7 gathered to cultivate their qi. Then, they could go to the Yongan Academy across the street, which was divided into 2 main categories. Liberal arts and martial arts, for further cultivation. More importantly, both places were free. Yi Laoda said that if you want to cultivate, you should study first. The country wouldn't be taken advantage of, but he would. As long as they were children of Lingju, they had the right to free education. This kind of thinking was too similar to modern people. Yinyou suspected he was a transmigrator, but Yi Zillian's accent and vocabulary didn't match. He couldn't be a fellow countryman. Then Zhu Hong secretly told Yinyou, both of these guans are protected by experts. When we entered this area, they already knew. They might even be watching us now. As soon as he finished speaking, the gate of Mingshuiguan opened. 2 experts instantly appeared before them. They bowed towards the 2 children. Yinyou was startled. She was really being watched. One of the experts walked up to Yinyou. He gave her a book. Yinyou happily took it. Who wouldn't like receiving a gift right away? But Zhu Hong was secretly panicking beside her. This is a zugui. He thought, once you take the zugui, you have to come here to study next year. If you're disobedient, the teacher will slap your hand. Yinyou's face instantly turned pale. She just wanted to return the zugui, but the expert swiftly retreated. Then, bang, he closed the door. Yinyou puffed up her cheeks in defiance. Who do you think you're looking down on? I'm so smart, the teacher won't hit me, hell praise me. Zhu Hong smiled wryly at this. This Mingxue Guan has produced many powerful geniuses. In the future, they'll either be directly sent to the boy army as officers, or go to the capital to compete for official positions. Yi Laoda has already planned out the next 10 years for Beiyu. By then, the border generals and capital officials will all be graduates of this academy. He'll directly use high intelligence and high ability to suppress the surrounding enemies and lead Beiyu to rise. Yu had to admit, Yizi was awesome. Then Zhu Hong urged Yu to hurry up. The two distinguished guests who often come are not easy to deal with. We'll be in trouble if we run into them. Yu's eyes lit up. She left Zhu Hong behind and ran to the side to peek at the distinguished guests. At the same time, two luxurious carriages stopped in front of the Yongan Marquis mansion. The place was dilapidated, with scattered peach blossoms, fallen leaves, and accumulated snow. Princess Yuyang angrily shouted, "Where is the Marquis of Yongan? Tell him to crawl out here and see me." A 5-year-old little princess also got out of the carriage behind her. She also complained in a delicate voice, "What a shabby place. It's so run down." Yu, hiding around the corner, watched with amusement. So these are the so-called distinguished guests. She thought. Princess Yuyang held the little princess' hand and said with a helpless smile, "I told you not to follow me, but you insisted on coming. How can this shabby place be worthy of your status as a Beiyu?" Princess, actually, the little princess had heard her older brothers talking about the Marquis of Yongan, so she wanted to see what kind of person he was. Princess Yuyang sneered, "He's nothing but an overhyped, arrogant man, and an ugly one at that. You are the only imperial princess of Beiyu. The entire Beiyu belongs to you. Don't be polite to him." The little princess obediently said, "I'll listen to my imperial sister." It's unknown what kind of brainwashing she had been subjected to. Princess Yuyang's eyes flashed with a strange glint, filled with deep cunning. At this time, a soldier came to report that the Marquis of Yongan was already on his way. The two princesses were immediately dissatisfied. He actually dared to make them wait. How many heads did he have? Yuyang even said she wanted Yi to kneel and see her. Yu, in the corner, couldn't stand it anymore. She immediately took out the beautiful red cloak that Yinyou had prepared for her. Dressed up, she was ready to make a dazzling entrance and blind the dog eyes. Her exquisite red dress, paired with the snow-white giant horse, made her look like a little fairy. Her appearance immediately stunned the two princesses, both of whom were extremely envious and hateful. At the same time, the system also revealed their information. Yang Yuran, titled Princess Yuyang, was the second-rank princess born to noble consort Gui. Jian Qileng was the 7th-rank princess born to the empress, only 5 years old and without a rank. Seeing that Yu didn't kneel before them, Yuyang started to curse again. Yu directly interrupted her. "You just said you wanted the Marquis of Yongan to kneel and see you, and said he didn't have enough heads, right? But as far as I know, although you are a princess, your rank is only 2nd rank. The Marquis of Yongan, Beiyu's #1 general, Yi, is a super 1st-rank general. Making a super 1st-rank general kneel before a 2nd-rank princess, what kind of crime is that?" Seeing Yu so eloquent, the two princesses were instantly enraged. Their emotional fluctuations started to rapidly increase their points. Yang Qileng fiercely glared at Yu. She shouted angrily, "You dare to stare at me? Why aren't you kneeling when you see this princess?" Yang Yuran also chimed in, "The Marquis of Yongan disrespects this princess, but who do you think you are?" She immediately ordered someone to pull Yu off her horse and whip her. Yu, however, was not afraid. She calmly took out the zugui she had just received and began to read aloud. Linju, Yongan City, Mingxue Guan Zugui, article. Students of Yongan Academy respect heaven, respect earth, respect their parents, respect themselves, respect fairness, but do not respect the powerful. Students of Yongan Academy, who pursue literary arts will serve the country and all living beings. Students of Yongan Academy, who pursue martial arts will protect the mountains and rivers and ensure the peace and prosperity of the nation. Her childish voice resonated powerfully, her expression serious and her eyes sharp. The two princesses were instantly dumbfounded. Their emotional fluctuations caused their points to skyrocket, directly breaking through the mark. Yu smiled, the corners of her mouth curling up. Meanwhile, Zhu Hong was almost going crazy. But even with all his might, his horse couldn't catch up to Bian-Tu's speed. He was extremely anxious. "Please, little general, don't let anything happen to you." So, Zhu Hong resolutely jumped off his horse. He used the shrinking the earth into an inch technique to run. Halfway there, he ran into Yang Futong, who was still buying things. Zhu Hong shouted anxiously, "Stop buying. The little general is about to be eaten by your two imperial sisters." Yang Futong's eyes widened in shock. What? The little general is being eaten. Did my imperial sisters turn into demons and eat people? He immediately rushed forward at full speed. The commoners thought there was an earthquake and rushed out in panic, only to see various delicacies scattered on the ground. Zhu Hong could only smile wryly and explain. Meanwhile, outside the Hu mansion, Yu deliberately made faces to anger the two princesses. Yang Yuran was already furious. Her points were still skyrocketing. She angrily pulled out a whip from the carriage. Swish! She whipped the ground, causing cracks to instantly appear, showing its power. Yu broke out in a cold sweat. She didn't expect Yang Yuran to be a martial arts expert. No wonder she stood out among the princesses. Yang Yuran shouted angrily, "You little beast. This princess will tear your mouth apart and flay you alive today." With that, she swung the whip with murderous intent. It was too fast. Yu couldn't dodge in time. Just when he thought he was done for, at the very last moment, Bianjiu heavily stomped its hooves. With a loud boom, a powerful wave of energy erupted from beneath him, blasting everyone present. Yu didn't expect Bianjiu to be so powerful. Dan Shi's eyes lit up, but Ke Yang wasn't so lucky. He was sent flying and coughed up blood. He then remembered the rumors about Yi Ci having a spirited and beautiful white horse. Could this be it? But how could Yi Ci's horse be ridden by an unruly brat? Although his heart was full of doubts, this incident left him feeling humiliated. He immediately ordered his men to pull Yu off the horse, and had her dragged to the guest room. Zhu Hong finally reached the gates of Yongan Marquis' residence, after exhausting all his strength, but looking at the two groups of people confronting each other with cold expressions. The two princesses with ugly and irritated faces, and Yu sitting on horseback. Zhu Hong felt a surge of respect and secretly gave Yu a thumbs up. "You're really awesome." This situation clearly shows that the two princesses have lost to a little general. However, he had to stabilize the situation and prevent the conflict from escalating. He immediately put on a smiling face and greeted the two princesses. He warmly invited them inside. "It's cold outside, please come in and talk." But Yang Yuran scolded him coldly. "You guys are really good at angering this princess." She then slapped Zhu Hong across the face with a loud smack. Zhu Hong's face instantly turned ugly as blood trickled down his cheek. Yu was shocked. General Zhu didn't provoke her. This is too much. Yu, whose temper was already flaring, was completely enraged by these two women. She immediately ran towards the two princesses with her short legs, and started spitting at them, shocking the princesses. Yu continued to spit furiously. Zhu Hong was amused. "This little guy is quite cute. Is she avenging me?" Yang Yuran was furious and shrieked, "You little beast, go to hell." She swung her whip at Yu's head, clearly intending to kill her. Zhu Hong quickly shielded Yu and blocked the fatal blow. "I'm sorry, our little general has lived at the border for a long time and doesn't understand the rules. Please forgive her." Yang Yuran suddenly had a bad feeling and quickly asked, "What little general?" Yang Futong's voice came from behind. "Naturally, she's General Ye's daughter, Little General Bu Yi." Yang Yuran was thunderstruck, and her whip fell to the ground. The intense shock made her stagger. She pointed a trembling finger at Yu, her voice cracking. "He actually used a woman." She then coughed up blood and fainted. Everyone panicked and rushed to her side, shouting for help. Yu looked curiously at the system interface. The emotions Yang Yuran displayed were unwillingness and resentment. She suddenly had a bad premonition. Could this princess be Cis old flame? 3-year-old Meng Ma got angry. "Even if you're a princess, I dare to spit on you. Who doesn't know she's Bu Yijun's first love?" The vicious princess was angered into unconsciousness, and the Yongan Marquis' residence was in chaos. Yu and the two generals squatted at the entrance, staring at each other, watching the princess maids bustling about. Yu thought, being a princess is truly a delicate art. Zhu Hong complained to Yang Futong, "Look at my face. That vicious woman slapped me as soon as she came up. It still stings." Yang Futong didn't believe him. "You're a Xuanwu rank, and she's a Huangwu rank. There's a whole Dewu rank between you two. She couldn't have hurt you." Zhu Hong became even angrier. "She couldn't hurt me physically, but she humiliated me. I'm a dignified general of the Bu Yi army. How could I be slapped by a mere second-rank princess?" Yang Futong sighed. "She's vicious and brainless. But what can you do? You can't kill her. She's a princess." Zhu Hong was about to explode. "Why can't you? You're a princess too, and older than her. You could slap her back. You're a Xuanwu rank." Yang Futong sighed again. "She's favored by the emperor. She has a title and is a second-rank princess. Her mother's family is the Dong family, the most powerful family in Beiyuo. Zhu Hong's momentum weakened. You have Zhuan weapons. He then sulked. Yu held her chin and pondered. I feel like there's a lot of information in this conversation. Something feels off. After a while, she finally realized and her jaw dropped. So, General Fu is also a princess. But why is she in the border army camp? Yang Futong actually wanted to cultivate with her older brother, so no one would dare bully her. Yu waved her fists angrily. Who dares to bully you? I'll scold them. I'll let Bian Jiu bite them. Bian Jiu neighed in agreement. Yang Futong felt a warmth in her heart. It's a long story. Many people want to bully me because my mother was the emperor's most hated concubine. The emperor didn't want me alive. Yu was stunned. The emperor wanted to kill his own daughter. He's worse than a beast. She quickly asked, what happened next? Yang Futong whispered, the empress pleaded for my life, but I was forbidden from leaving the palace, studying, or even seeing the sun. I was locked up until I was. Yu was confused. How did General Fu cultivate to Xuanwu rank? Yang Futong explained. 5 years ago, there was a demonic beast horde from the southern ghost prison that almost reached the capital. The palace was in chaos, and the eunuchs and maids guarding me fled. I escaped from the palace and somehow ended up in the horde. I inexplicably absorbed a blood pearl and reached Xuanwu rank. Yu's eyes lit up. This is a typical heroine story, but she was more concerned about something else. What was that demonic beast horde? Demonic beasts appeared. 3-year-old Meng La was excited. I heard that you can level up by eating them. If that's the case, I wouldn't flinch even if I had 20 thorns on my back. Zhu Hong told him, the ghost prison surrounds our entire continent, bordering the 4 major regions. According to legend, the demonic beasts and humans have a mutual agreement. The beasts rarely invade human territory, at most causing minor disturbances. But 5 years ago, they suddenly invaded Beiyuo. Yu was confused. Why? Did something happen? Zhu Hong didn't know. The demonic beasts must have their reasons. Yu wasn't bothered by this. She wanted to know if the demonic beast horde would happen again. To her surprise, Zhu Hong and Yang Futong confidently declared, no way. Fortunately, Yu wasn't an ordinary child, or she would have been scared witless. But she didn't understand why they were so sure. Zhu Hong and Yang Futong puffed out their chests. Because General Yi said so. If he says it won't happen, it won't. They both nodded in agreement, as if emphasizing that this was the truth. Yu was speechless. Do you two blindly worship Yi? Later, Yu sat on a tree, munching on chicken legs. She looked at the clean courtyard with satisfaction. Although those 2 princesses are annoying, their servants are efficient. The residence is much cleaner now. I wonder if that annoying Young princess is awake yet. As soon as she finished speaking, Yang Qiling appeared beneath the tree. She sneered at Yu. I heard you're Yi's bastard child. You're indeed a barbaric refugee, eating such disgusting things. Even dogs in the capital wouldn't eat this. Yu's eyes turned cold, her gaze sharp. She grabbed a stone and threw it at Yang Qiling. How dare this bastard look at me like that? However, the stone missed Yang Qiling and hit the tree branch beneath Yu. It then fell to the ground without hitting a single hair on Yu. The air fell silent as Yang Qiling's face turned green with embarrassment. The next second, a chicken leg hit Yang Qiling's face, covering her in grease. She stood there stunned, tears welling up in her eyes. She was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Yu smirked, looking at her provocatively. Yang Qiling stomped her feet and screamed, you little bitch. Unwanted bastard. Go to hell. Rage filled the system screen. Yu jumped down from the tree. Chong's Yang Kailing's attack was a single punch, sending the person flying. Yang Kailing was knocked to the ground. A large bump immediately appeared on her small face. The old nanny screamed. Yu stepped on Yang Kailing, viciously threatening the old nanny to shut up, or I'll kill her. The old nanny disregarded the threat and yelled, help. Someone. The little princess is being beaten to death. Yang Kailing cried, tears and snot streaming down her face. She reached out to the old nanny for help, but the old nanny ignored Yang Kailing's plea and ran away, shouting, the little princess is being beaten by the young general. The little princess is being beaten to death. Yu was stunned by the old nanny's speed, realizing she was a cultivator. Unsure of the situation, Yu found the old nanny's behavior strange. Instead of helping Yang Kailing, she ran away. Left alone, Yang Kailing cried even harder, feeling abandoned. Her merit points skyrocketed. Yuyu's ears were assaulted by the crying. He couldn't help but yell, "Shut up!" But Yang Kailing clung to his leg, pleading, "I don't want to die. Don't kill me." Yuyu crouched down and asked if she knew her nanny had cultivation. Yang Kailing sobbed that she knew. Her nanny was a golden core cultivator. Yuyu reached out to pull her up, threatening secretly, "Behave, or I'll abandon you." Yang Kailing burst into tears again. Yuyu's face darkened, and he punched her again. Yang Kailing finally stopped crying. Meanwhile, Yang Yuran was furious. How could Yizi have a daughter? How dare she have a child with someone else? 5 years ago, when Yang Yuran first saw Yizi, she found him incredibly handsome, not the ferocious beast others described. From that day on, Yang Yuran was obsessed with him. Despite numerous requests to the emperor, and even leveraging her mother's family's influence, Yang Yuran failed to marry Yizi. Now, she discovered he had a child with someone else. Yang Yuran gritted her teeth. Which bitch seduced him? What do I lack compared to those sluts? Just then, the old nanny rushed in, yelling from afar, "It's terrible. The young general is beating the little princess to death." Clearly, many people had heard her along the way. The old nanny knelt before Yang Yuran, crying, "Help. The young general is killing someone. Please save the little princess." Yang Yuran was overjoyed. Heaven was helping her eliminate 2 rivals without lifting a finger. She pretended to be concerned and instructed the old nanny to fetch General Zhu Hong to save the princess. The old nanny obeyed, but a sinister smile flashed across her face, her plan succeeding. Zhu Hong and Yang Futong arrived, suspicious of the situation. The old nanny continued to yell, "Such audacity! They dare harm the princess born to the empress. If the little princess is beaten to death, not only will you be punished, but Yizi will have to answer to the emperor." Zhu Hong still didn't believe Yu would kill the princess. The old nanny angrily insisted, claiming she witnessed Yu beating the little princess mercilessly. Zhu Hong imagined Yu, a mere child, beating the little princess. He felt uneasy but argued, "The young general is so timid, she always cries. How could she beat anyone?" Yang Futong was conflicted. The empress had shown him kindness. Loyally, he prayed, "Young general, please don't cause trouble." A group rushed into the Yongan Marquis residence. They were shocked by the scene. Yu and Yang Kailing were playing happily, singing and clapping, with innocent smiles. It was a heartwarming scene, not one of abuse. Everyone was stunned, jaws dropping. Wasn't the little princess supposed to be beaten to death? Zhu Hong and Yang Futong glared at the old nanny. She insisted, the little princess was definitely beaten. Zhu Hong was furious, his hands reaching for his weapons. "You dare lie and frame our young general. Prepare to face the wrath of the Bio army." The old nanny panicked. "I saw the young general beating the little princess with my own eyes." She lunged towards Yang Kailing. "The little princess must be injured. Let me show you." Yu shielded Yang Kailing. "You old hag. What are you doing? Don't disturb the princess and me." Enraged at being called an old hag, the nanny blurted out, "You have no manners." She fell right into Yu's trap. "You dare insult the empress nanny? Who gave you the courage?" Unable to argue, the old nanny tried to call the little princess over. Yu sneered, "You dare order the princess around?" Little Yang Kailing sensed something was wrong. "I'm the princess. I should be giving her orders. Why is she bossing me around? And Momo always orders me. She even ran away without saving me earlier." The little princess realized she shouldn't listen to the nanny. The old nanny assumed Yu had done something to the princess. Yu declared, "She's a bastard. She shouldn't even be alive." He pretended to cry. Yang Futong rushed to protect him. "This is the Yongan Marquis recognized young general. Try touching him." Yu reminded Yang Futong, "Are you loyal to the Xuanwu army or the princess? Harming the Xuanwu army's general is treason." The old nanny shrieked, "I'm consort Gui's person. You dare." Before she finished, Yang Futong struck her with his sword. Blood splattered. The old nanny collapsed. Yu smiled triumphantly. "So, she's consort Gui's person. The empress daughter's most trusted nanny is consort Gui's person. Interesting." The 3-year-old was a human weapon. He single-handedly routed elite guards. One sentence angered Princess Yuyang to the point of collapse. He beat the arrogant and spoiled little princess. He also angered the vicious old nanny to death. The triple combo shocked the cold-faced general. Back at the residence, Yizi was handling affairs while Zhong, the head butler, paced anxiously. He worried about Yu. The imperial palace is full of dangerous people, especially that Princess Yuyang. What if she bullies the young general? Yizi was speechless. Yinyou was a little killer. Who could bully him? Zhong was overthinking. Suddenly, 3 figures descended from the night sky. They were the Bio Army's covert agents, sent to monitor the Yongan Marquis residence. They reported to Yizi how Yinyou had routed the guards. Yizi chuckled. I told you not to worry. My son's prowess is expected. Zhong nodded in agreement. The next agent reported, the young general angered Princess Yuyang to the point of collapse. Yizi was slightly surprised but not too concerned. Zhong panicked. What do we do? Princess Yuyang's mother is ruthless and from a powerful family. Yizi was unconcerned. Killing one from the Dongguo family is the same as killing many. The third agent reported, the young general crippled the Empress 17th princess. Zhong fainted. The agents cried, General, what do we do? Yizi tossed them a bottle of medicine. Send this to the princess. Tell that little brat to behave. Meanwhile, Yang Yuran had recovered. So what if Yizi has a daughter? Without the emperor's decree, she's a bastard. Besides, that damn brat is about to die. Serves her right for being born a bastard. How dare she hit the imperial princess? I thought she would be difficult, but she brought it upon herself. When Yizi is questioned, the emperor will strip him of his command, and the Dongguo family will take over the Bio army. Then my mother will plead for Yizi, and I, Princess Yuyang, will marry him as his main consort. Yang Yuran was delighted. Just then, a maid rushed in. Princess. Something terrible has happened. You must see. Yang Yuran remained calm. Even if she's dying, she can't be saved. The maid cried, someone's dead. It's murder. Yang Yuran was ecstatic. Dead? Really? Are you sure? After receiving confirmation, she laughed triumphantly. Yang Kailing, that little bastard, was beaten to death. Wonderful. The maid urged, Princess, hurry. General Zhu Hong is about to burn the body. Yang Yuran was furious. Insolence. How dare he burn the princess' body? The maid knelt, trembling. It's not the little princess. Momo is dead. Yang Yuran's smile froze. Her voice trembled. What did you say? The 3-year-old terror snatched the bare-child princess. He angered the vicious old nanny to death. He infuriated the scheming princess to the point of explosion. Back in his room, Yu looked at the constantly updating merit points. He chuckled happily. Now, the total is over. Is within reach. Yu whistled cheerfully, anticipating the day he could unlock the dragon sandstone seal. But when he saw Zhong Qingshan's worried expression, Yu's heart softened. Is Grandpa Butler worried about me? A warmth spread through Yu's heart. I never experienced family love in my past life. It's so nice to have Grandpa Butler care for me in this life. A childish whimper came from nearby. I want to go back to the palace. I want to go to Fuhua. Yo-Yo paused again. He turned his head curiously, only to see 2 dark guards holding Yang Chling and trying to apply medicine to her wounds. The general said we must apply medicine to the little princess. She must have it applied today, even if she cries her eyes out. There's no use delaying. Yang Chling's small legs kicked and struggled. Desperately. The 2 dark guards couldn't hold her still. Yo-Yo squatted down, speechless. This little brat was truly annoying, but she was also quite pitiful. Only 5 years old, she didn't understand anything. She hadn't even developed a sense of right and wrong, but for a 5-year-old child to come and provoke him, even using vicious words like bastard and dog thing, there must be someone deliberately influencing her. Yo-Yo fell into deep thought. The old governess was Gifi's person. So her actions, to a large extent, represented the thoughts of that Gifi. Gifi placed someone by the little princess' side to slowly cripple her. And now, she even wants to kill her. Moreover, Gifi belongs to the Eastern Kingdom. The persistence of the Eastern Kingdom appearing in the military camp clearly indicates that the Eastern Kingdom has ill intentions towards the Northern Yu army, and Princess Yuyang is, after all, Gifi's daughter. Her arrival in LNJ, who isn't a good sign. Yo-Yo suddenly thought of something and sat down on the bed, his face paling. If DNGU was killed by me, and the mole Gifi planted beside Yang Chling was also killed by me, then wouldn't Gifi try every possible way to kill me? But Yo-Yo wasn't one to sit idly by. The best defense is a good defense. He needed a plan to counter Gifi. Step 1. Win over the little princess. Yo-Yo immediately appeared mysteriously beside Yang Chling. As soon as Yang Chling saw him, she remembered being held and threatened by him. She was so scared that she even stopped crying. Yo-Yo put on a kind, grandmotherly smile and coaxed the little princess to let him apply the medicine. Yang Chling trembled with fear, not daring to struggle anymore. Yo-Yo took the opportunity to let Enwei come forward and apply the medicine. Enwei complimented him with a thumbs up. Young master is truly impressive. After the medicine was applied, Yang Chling, a mix of fear and pain, finally couldn't help but burst into louder cries. Her cries instantly pierced the night. Yo-Yo laughed heartily. The dignified Northern Yu Emperor's crying hasn't stopped since arriving in Lnju. Who could have imagined this? Meanwhile, Zhu Hong and Yan Futong were leisurely enjoying tea. This tea is from Xingzhou. We don't have it in our remote Lnju. Suddenly, Yang Aran stormed in, radiating anger. Kicking open the door, she roared, "Who gave you the guts to kill my?" Yo-Yo thought, oh, the show has begun. Yang Aran learned that the mole she had placed beside the little princess had been killed. Furious, she came to confront Yan Futong. Zhu Hong gestured for the princess to rise and greet her, but Yan Futong just sat there with a stern face, sizing her up with displeasure. Yang Aran was immediately enraged. What's with that look? Zhu Hong smiled calmly, pulling out a piece of paper from his clothes. He slowly walked behind Yang Aran, who was still pointing at Yan Futong and scolding, "I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me?" Zhu Hong gave a subtle gesture, indicating Yan Futong could respond. Yan Futong immediately stood up with a darkened face and strode towards Yang Aran. The tall, imposing female general looked down at her and asked menacingly, "I killed her. Is there a problem?" Yang Aran's face turned ugly. She was just about to say something when Yan Futong coldly snapped, "If there's a problem, take it up with someone else." Zhu Hong gave Yan Futong a thumbs up behind her, silently showing his support. He held up another piece of paper with pre-written lines. "Just read what's on it." Yan Futong continued her aggressive stance. That old governess dared to insult the little princess, cursed the emperor, and even provoked General Yi. Should I have kept her around for the new year? If you people from the capital are so reckless, you should just get out. Zhu Hong silently applauded. Well done. Yang Aran was indeed angered. She raised her hand to slap Yan Futong, but her hand was caught midair. The immense grip nearly crushed her hand. Yang Aran struggled with all her might, crying, "Let go of me." Yan Futong shouted coldly, "Yang Aran, let me warn you. Not only am I your second imperial sister, whom you should respect, I am a Xuanwu realm cultivator, and the general of the heavy cavalry regiment of the Northern Yu army. And you, a mere yellow martial realm cultivator, dare to challenge me on our territory. I advise you to behave yourself in Lnju, or you won't even know how you died." She then released her hand. Yang Aran's face was pale, as she stumbled backward. She cursed herself for forgetting that Yan Futong's cultivation had already reached the Xuanwu realm. She couldn't afford a direct confrontation now. This was Lnju, not the capital. Yang Aran forced herself to suppress her rage, practically gritting her teeth to pieces before squeezing out, "Second imperial sister is right." But she quickly put on a sinister, crazy smile. "Please tell Yan that I'm waiting for him here." Yan Futong was instantly dumbfounded. Zhu Hong hadn't prepared her for this. She quickly looked at Zhu Hong, who could only shake his head helplessly, signaling her to improvise. Yan Futong could only stammer, "The general is very busy trying to brush her off." Yang Aran interrupted her with a strange laugh. "I know he is, but he must come to see me personally about this matter, or his life will be in danger." Yan Futong frowned, completely confused by her words. Yo-Yo and Bin, who were eavesdropping outside the window, hadn't expected to hear such a shocking statement. Yan Futong frowned, not believing she had such power. Zhu Hong could only fabricate an excuse. "The general is busy allocating troops and supplies to the garrison, and guarding against surprise attacks from the Han Luo kingdom. He really doesn't have time to come to Yngn." Yang Aran's smile became even more smug. "It seems he won't come unless I force his hand. Then it'll be blunt." Yan Futong and Zhu Hong suddenly felt a chill down their spines. They had a bad premonition. Could Yang Aran really have some dirt on their boss? Sure enough, Yang Aran said with a dark expression, 5 years ago, on the summer solstice night, the Empress held a banquet. May I ask why General Yi appeared there? Yan Futong and Zhu Hong were stunned. Yang Aran continued, her voice laced with malice. Tell me, why would General Yi sneak into the Empress banquet late at night? What did he do there? Yi's mask is one of a kind in the world. I couldn't have mistaken him. Then Yang Aran suddenly burst into a sick, maniacal laugh, filled with both mockery and hatred. If people knew that General Yi Xi spent an entire night at the Empress banquet in the dead of night, what would the emperor think? What would the world think? Tell Yi Xi to come see me within 3 days. Otherwise. Yang Iran didn't finish her sentence, but simply left, leaving them with endless speculation. Yi Xi, don't blame me for being ruthless. You forced my hand by not coming to see me. Yo-Yo, who was eavesdropping, suddenly thought, did we just stumble upon some huge secret? As expected of Yi Xi, so impressive. He truly deserves to be the daddy I acknowledge. Meanwhile, Yan Futong was pacing around the room agitatedly, clearly believing that General Yi had an affair with the Empress. Zhu Hong quickly went to close the doors and windows, urging him, keep your voice down. Be careful of eavesdroppers. But it was too late. He was shocked to discover Yo-Yo right outside the window, innocently saying, we didn't know about Yi Xi and the Northern Yu Emperor. Zhu Hong was instantly panicked. How did this little ancestor find out? He quickly dragged Yo-Yo and Bin inside and closed all the doors and windows. Come in and let's talk. The three sat facing each other, the atmosphere tense and awkward. Yan Futong was nearly frantic. Could it be that General Yi really has something going on with the Empress? Zhu Hong, however, remained calm. Zhong Guzhan didn't lie to me. Boss Yi really did sneak into the Imperial Palace at the age of 10. So the question is, 5 years ago, Boss snuck into the Imperial Palace and went to the Empress banquet. What was he doing there? Yu Yu's excitement was instantly dampened. He slowly climbed onto the table, swinging his little legs and sighing dramatically. What could a 10-year-old brat do? Yan Futong also calmed down. That's right. What could he do at 10? Zhu Hong looked at him disapprovingly. What are you thinking? Don't tell me you were really thinking about that. But Yo-Yo was thinking seriously. 5 years ago, Yi Xi snuck into the Imperial Palace to see the Empress. 5 years ago, the ghost prison's evil spirit surge erupted. 5 years ago, Yan Futong entered the Xuanwu realm. And 5 years ago, Yang Chling was born, and she's now 5 years old. Why is everything 5 years ago? This timing is too coincidental. The next second, Yo-Yo suddenly realized Yi Xi is only now. How could a little brat be my daddy? Back in his room, Yo-Yo was still pondering Yi Xi sneaking into the palace, convinced there was a big secret involving the Empress. And the fact that Yi Xi specifically sent someone to deliver medicine to the little princess and force its application indicated that the little princess was likely a key clue. Yo-Yo immediately opened the door to find Yang Chling. Yang Chling had already cried herself to sleep. Even in her dreams, she was whimpering, tears still staining her cheeks. But Yu, this insane fellow, mercilessly punched Yang Kailing in the face, directly waking her up. Yang Kailing, in pain and grievance, teared up and was about to cry loudly. The system promptly displayed points. But Yu's words, "You are not allowed to cry," made her quickly hold back. The terrified Yu earned points. At this moment, Yu revealed a wolf grandmother-like smile. That's right. Next, let's play a game. I ask, you answer. Wrong answer, you get hit. Yang Kailing dared not refuse, so Yu first asked a simple question. How old are you? How old is your mother? Yang Kailing only knew she was years old. She had no idea about her mother's age, and didn't know anything about her, not even what she looked like. Yu punched her without hesitation. He felt like he was being played. You don't even know what your mother looks like. Lying is a punishable offense. Yang Kailing cried in grievance. Tears flowed like a river as she explained that she could only see her mother twice a year, once on the blood sacrifice day, and once on her birthday, and even then. From a distance, unable to see clearly, Yu became curious. Why can't you see your mother usually? Yang Kailing said, Mother is out of favor. Father Emperor imprisoned her. Yu almost laughed. Dongguo Guifei, who suppressed the Beiyu's #1 family, was made empress, but she was an unfavored daughter. Who told you these things? Yang Kailing replied, Momo and Shi Huangji. Yu was speechless. She was clearly deceived. Then who usually teaches you reading, writing, and basic cultivation? Yang Kailing puffed up her chest. I don't learn those. Shi Huangji and Guifei Nyang said I am the Di princess, born to have everything. I don't need to learn those useless things. Yu, speechless, punched her again. This child was indeed thoroughly misled, and needed forceful education to correct her. Yang Kailing was beaten to tears. Her emotions instantly collapsed. Finally, she couldn't help but burst into tears. Yu directly raised his fist and threatened, "From now on, you will read and write. You will also learn basic cultivation techniques. If you don't, they'll beat you to death, even chase you to the imperial palace and beat you to death. I'm telling you in advance, for the next few days, I will eat, drink, and sleep with you, to prevent anyone from misleading you again." Yang Kailing was naturally unwilling and cried desperately. As a result, the room was filled with the sounds of a violent struggle. Yinyou, listening outside the door, couldn't help but shake his head. Yu subdued the arrogant princess with force. "Disobey and be punished. I'll chase you to the imperial palace and beat you to death." The princess could only cry in front of him. This matter quickly reached Yi Shu, because Gang just brought the news in. Steward Zhong, who had been waiting outside Yi Shu's room, suddenly woke up. "Is there news about Xiao Jiang-jun?" Yi was speechless. "She is your biological granddaughter, why are you so concerned?" Zhong Qingshan was truly worried. "Xiao Jiang-jun is only 3 years old. Hu Yi, why don't you let him come back quickly? That young princess is a vicious tiger. If she finds out that you've taken Xiao Jiang-jun as your daughter, she will definitely take action." After reading the report, Yi chuckled. "He didn't attack Yu, but he came for me." Zhong Qingshan immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that Xiao Jiang-jun wasn't harmed. Yi was now unhappy. "Why aren't you concerned about me?" Zhong Qingshan panicked for a moment and quickly smiled apologetically. "Who could possibly hurt Hu Yi? You are resourceful, and your cultivation is unmatched." Yi corrected him, "It's Baudi. But that Dongguo family's Yu Yang is truly courting death." Zhong Qingshan suddenly became tense. "Are you going to deal with the Dongguo family?" "It's too early. We haven't gathered enough evidence, and the emperor hasn't given the order yet." Yi certainly wasn't planning to touch the Dongguo family yet. Their power in Beiyu, and even the entire northern region, was not to be underestimated. Disorder in Dongguo would inevitably lead to chaos in Beiyu. It would affect everything. Now was not the time. Zhong Qingshan sighed helplessly. "This old servant doesn't understand these matters, nor do I understand the heavenly Tao, the imperial court, and grand schemes. This old servant took a liking to Xiao Jiang-jun at first sight, and only hopes she can live a peaceful life, without being caught up in these disputes." Yi shattered his illusion. "It's impossible for her not to be involved. In the future, Yu will take over the Bureau of Unconventional Affairs, and complete the final step for me." Zhong Qingshan was momentarily speechless, unable to say anything to refute. He could only bow and say resolutely, "This old servant will risk his life to protect Xiao Jiang-jun." Meanwhile, Yu was sprawled across the bed, limbs askew, lying on top of Yang Kailing. A moment later, she rubbed her eyes and woke up, looking at Yang Kailing, who was still sleeping soundly beside her. Yu unceremoniously stepped on her chest and got out of bed. Yang Kailing almost coughed up blood. Suffering a critical hit first thing in the morning, Yang Kailing was in pain, her emotions collapsing, directly contributing 2 large waves of points. Yu looked at the system panel with great satisfaction. "Wow, already, points. Did this little princess farm points overnight? Truly a point farming machine." Yu originally wanted to pat her head and praise her, but Yang Kailing actually trembled in fear. Did someone put a mark on this child? Yu could only helplessly withdraw his hand. He pushed open the door and walked out. Bianjiu greeted him respectfully. Yu noticed a faint smell in the air. Upon closer inspection, he found a strong smell of blood. After walking around the Hu mansion with Bianjiu, he discovered there wasn't a single person. Where were Yang Yuran and Yang Kailing's entourage? Just then, Princess Yu Yang, Yang Yuran, suddenly rushed over. She no longer had her previous arrogant and smug look. Her face was pale as a ghost, her hair disheveled, and she had lost one of her shoes, as if she had been greatly frightened. Yu stared in surprise. What happened? Yu had another juicy piece of gossip to enjoy. After bullying the little princess early in the morning, Yu, in a good mood, prepared to go out and explore. But he noticed the strong smell of blood in the air. Before he could take a few steps with Bianjiu, he saw Yang Yuran running towards them, disheveled, both crying and laughing. Yu, don't follow me. Xie Rongzhuan followed unhurriedly from behind. Princess, slow down. Has your leg injury fully healed? Yang Yuran ran even faster. Yu watched with a bewildered expression. What's going on? Is Yang Yuran crazy? Xie Rongzhuan politely greeted him. Yu curiously asked where they were going. Xie Rongzhuan said they were escorting Princess Yu Yang back to the capital. Yu still didn't understand and simply replied, "Be careful on the road." Upon hearing these words, Yang Yuran's face turned even paler, as if she had been threatened. She ran even faster, like a frightened bird, crying and shouting for help. The system instantly began to rack up points. Che Rongzhuan continued to follow unhurriedly, as if herding birds. Yu was dying of curiosity. What exactly happened to scare Yang Yuran like this? At this time, Zhu Hong walked over, greeting him cheerfully. "Xiaojiang Jun, good morning. You look beautiful today." Yu immediately asked why he was so happy. Zhu Hong said sarcastically, "Oh, that person entourage. They all suddenly fell ill. The entire Hu mansion is empty overnight. So peaceful." Yu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He quickly grabbed Zhu Hong's hand and asked, "What happened? Tell me the details, let me be happy too." So Zhu Hong began to explain excitedly. "Didn't Princess Yu Yang act arrogantly yesterday, and provoke Yi Laoda? Yi Laoda directly ordered them to be dealt with. When the princess woke up this morning, she discovered that the people she brought had vanished without a trace. She was so scared she almost fainted." Yu's jaw dropped in shock. "People, all killed. So ruthless, that explains the strong smell of blood in the courtyard. No wonder Princess Yu Yang looks like that. Yi Shu's speed, his methods, his ruthlessness. Love it, love it." Zhu Hong and Yu, one big and one small, sat on the steps, snickering like two evil villains. Yang Futong walked over with a puzzled look and asked, "Che Rongzhuan is sending her back to the capital now. Can she make it back for New Year's?" But Zhu Hong told her, "Yi Laoda said she's not coming back. Che Rongzhuan will change his identity and stay in the capital." Yang Futong was confused, unable to understand why. Yu understood, smiling mischievously. "Isn't this just messing with her mentally?" Zhu Hong patted his little head, smart. It turned out that the hidden branch in the capital had already been arranged by Che Rongzhuan. As soon as he arrived in the capital, he would take up his post. But Yang Futong still didn't understand. Why go to the capital to be an official? What's the point? Zhu Hong chuckled darkly. "The point is, as long as Che Rongzhuan stays in the capital, Princess Yu Yang will never have a day of peace." Yu chimed in, "On the way, Che Rongzhuan will definitely use various methods to mentally torment Yang Yuran, and after finally arriving in the capital, she will still live under Che Rongzhuan's shadow." Just thinking about it is hilarious. Zhu Hong and Yu laughed heartily. Yang Futong also understood what was going on. "So that's how it is. I don't know who came up with this damaging trick." Yu smiled evilly. "Who else could it be? Your General Yi." Yu finally got some big gossip about Yi Zi. Unexpectedly, the seemingly cold and aloof Yi Zi actually made Yang Yuran wet his pants and run away like the wind. Yu couldn't help but give a thumbs up, indicating a job well done. The danger of losing was also quietly approaching. Inside the imperial palace of Beiyu, Yang Jinshuo leaned back on the soft, looking vigilant. His hands never left the map of the secret tunnels beneath the palace. Yang Jinshuo sipped his tea, savoring its aroma. While keeping a close eye on his guard outside the door, he lightly observed the scene. This guard didn't realize that the Empress was just a short distance away. The woman making tea remained silent. She was Luo Yinyou, the Empress of Beiyu. Yang Jinshuo suddenly grabbed her chin and questioned, "After all these years, you still refuse to tell me the secret of your longevity?" Luo Yinyou simply replied, "What your majesty wants to know, Mulan cannot divulge." Yang Jinshuo did not get angry, but instead changed his tactics. "Yu Yang left for Lingzhu a few days ago. That child has been pestering me to go there since he was little. Your own daughter is not by your side, you must miss her very much." Yang Jinshuo's words were full of menace. Luo Yinyou coldly glared at him, her eyes flashing with anger. "Don't you dare touch my baby." Yang Jinshuo casually released his grip, feigning innocence. "I'm only doing this because you forced me to. I just want a longer lifespan, to reach a higher realm, to resist evil, to bring peace to the world, and to unify it under my rule." Luo Yinyou was angered by his shamelessness. When Wu Ye's army was at its peak, who issued 3 consecutive decrees to retreat. Now you talk to me about unifying the world. Luo Yinyou didn't bother arguing with him. "Consort Dong is more suitable to be the empress than I am. Her family is more useful to you. Kill me, I have no value to you anymore." Yang Jinshuo's eyes lit up as he caressed her face again. "Empress, how can you say that about yourself? Look how special you are. Which other woman in this world can be as eternally youthful and immortal as you?" Luo Yinyou suddenly burst out laughing, as if she had heard a great joke. She brushed her hair behind her ear, revealing a nearly invisible strand of white. But Luo Yinyou laughed heartily. "I'm old. I will grow old and die soon. You will never know the curse of longevity." Yang Jinshuo was instantly enraged, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He furiously flung Luo Yinyou across the room. Before leaving, he left a harsh warning, "Sooner or later, I will make you talk." Luo Yinyou endured the pain and propped herself up, her eyes full of hatred as she watched him leave. Meanwhile, Consort Dong and the seventh prince were together. Suddenly, a eunuch rushed in to report the emperor's movements. His Majesty has left the empress quarters and is now in the courtyard with Lin Fei, reciting poetry. Lin Fei reciting poetry. What's so special about that? It's not unheard of for a teacher and student to recite poetry together, but the eunuch said the content was interesting. Lin Fei recited the first half about planting fragrant grass under the plane tree, while His Majesty responded with the second half about the northern border. The Empress pondered for a moment. The seventh prince jumped up excitedly. "This is too obvious. Father has finally had enough of Yi. Let's go to Lingzhou and support her." Yinyou finally scared the little princess. Not only did he have to sleep with the little princess every night, he also almost made her wet her pants early in the morning. He even warned her not to leave the room without his permission. Bian Qiliang couldn't believe that she, a princess, was being threatened. And she was really hungry now, and it was too quiet outside. After struggling for a long time, Bian Qiliang finally mustered the courage to open the door, only to find that there was no one outside. Realizing she had been abandoned, Bian Qiliang was both sad and scared. She couldn't help but burst into tears. Meanwhile, Yinyou, Zhu Hong, and Yang Futong were already on their way back to the Bai army camp. They chatted and laughed along the way, but Yinyou kept feeling like he had forgotten something. Yang Futong patted him reassuringly. "What could it be?" "Don't overthink it, little general," Zhu Hong reminded him pointedly. "We were so busy hurrying that we left the little princess behind." Yinyou suddenly realized. "I knew something felt wrong." Zhu Hong pretended to sigh. Poor little princess, she missed the escort back to the capital, and was left behind in the wilderness. Yang Futong slapped his forehead. "Oh no, my imperial sister. What do we do?" At the same time, the news of Bai Yuda's quarrel with the Empress over immortality had already spread like wildfire, and the news of Bai Yuda's dissatisfaction with Yi also reached Consort Dong. The seventh prince jumped up excitedly upon hearing the news. "Father wants to get rid of Yi. Isn't it obvious? Imperial sister is in Lingzhou. Let's send her a message and tell her to be bold and seize Yi." Consort Dong was speechless. How could such a smart woman give birth to such a fool? Consort Dong immediately ordered Lin Fei to be arrested and imprisoned. The seventh prince was anxious. "Shouldn't we be informing Weigong to seize the Bai army? Why bother with Lin Fei?" Consort Dong patiently explained, "Whether it's Yi or the Bai army, your father will make his own decisions. The Dongbo family must not overstep its bounds." The seventh prince didn't understand. "But didn't father write the poem himself?" Consort Dong pointed out the key point. "It was Lin Fei who started it. Someone has to pay the price for causing chaos." The seventh prince was still unconvinced. "In the end, isn't it because he's afraid of Yi?" Consort Dong interrupted him sharply. "Your imperial sister is in Lingzhou, she has her own things to do. Mind your own business, and stay out of Lingzhou's affairs." Inwardly, she wondered how Yuan was progressing. The devil Yinyou was finally returning to the barracks. Although Yinyou was only 3 years old, he was more terrifying than Wu. He could send a kilogram adult flying with a single blow. Wherever he was, it was hell. Upon learning that the little general was about to return, and was already nearing the barracks gate, all the soldiers were terrified, their faces pale, as if they wished they could disappear. Everyone scrambled to hide or flee. Yinyou arrived at the main gate and saw his system panel flooded with notifications of increasing fear and terror. Although the individual amounts were small, the sheer quantity was immense. Yinyou smiled with satisfaction. He liked this unique welcome from the Huye army. He grinned devilishly. Good, keep giving Yinyou points. Yi and Zhong Qingshan had been waiting at the gate for a long time. When Yinyou saw Zhong Qingshan, his eyes lit up. He patted Bianga's head, urging him to run faster. His favorite butler grandpa was waiting. Biangu galloped towards Zhong Qingshan. Yinyou jumped off Bianga's back, shouting butler grandpa, and threw himself into Zhong Qingshan's arms, his cheerful laughter echoing in the air. Zhong Qingshan hugged Yinyou tightly. The embrace between the old man and the child in the snow was a heartwarming and touching scene. But Yinyou was too excited, and his hair started to crackle with electricity. Zhong Qingshan suddenly rolled his eyes and collapsed. Yinyou panicked and cried, "Butler Grandpa, what's wrong?" Peng Ding's voice rang out, "Yinyou, you electrocuted him again." Yinyou was speechless. He was like a Pikachu, his body sparking with blue-purple electricity. Yi Xi, however, was not afraid and picked him up. Fen Furen helped Zhong Qingshan back to his room to rest. Then, she carried Yinyou by the scruff of his neck to the study like a small chick. Yinyou grumbled, "Yi Xi, put me down and I won't hold it against you." Yi Xi was surprised. His tone had changed after just one trip outside. Yinyou said smugly, "I already know. You're only 15 years old. Why are you acting like an adult?" Yi Xi's aura intensified as he insisted he was 200 years old. Yinyou didn't believe him. "Didn't you say that Qian Wujing is only years old? You can't be more powerful than Qian Wujing." Yi Xi patiently explained, "Qian Wujing has already broken through to the spirit realm. I told you, this world is vast. The northern region is just the smallest part of the Wu region." Yinyou, not to be outdone, stuck out her tongue and yelled, "Old Grandpa Yizhu." Yizhu was instantly enraged. He threw her onto the table. Ripping open her clothes, he pressed on the Jinpa nail on her back. The nail's loosening was becoming increasingly obvious. After checking, Yinyou turned her head and teased, "That demon foreign princess has seen what you look like. I want to see too. Show me, quickly." As she spoke, she reached out to grab his mask. A 3-year-old girl possessed surprising strength. Removing each nail would cost 10 years of his lifespan, and the only thing that could help him keep the iron nails in was this mask. But after interacting for so long, Yinyou still hadn't seen his true face. Driven by curiosity, Yinyou reached out to unveil Yiju's mask, but one of his hands held her back. He resolutely refused to let her see. Yinyou puffed up her cheeks angrily, "Why won't you show me? Are you too ugly, or are you afraid of scaring people?" Unfortunately, her childish methods were useless against General Yizhu. "You might as well think about how to unlock the Feng Hun Ding." Speaking of this, Yinyou felt even angrier. Of course, she had thought about it. It wasn't that she wasn't trying. The broken system demanded points to unlock it. Yizhu told her that by strengthening her body, she could remove the 3 Jinpa nails on her head, but only after at least one Feng Hun Ding on her back was unlocked. Yinyou just responded indifferently with, "Oh really, doctor?" Yizhu was utterly exasperated. He really had no way to deal with this little brat. At this moment, Yinyou pulled out a children's primer from her ring. Yizhu teased, "So you're going to elementary school to study now?" Actually, Yizhu wasn't forcing her. Go if she wanted, don't go if she didn't. He was just worried Yinyou wouldn't want to be with those children under 7. To his surprise, Yuyu's eyes lit up with excitement. She really wanted to go to school. Those little brats could easily generate morality points. It was just too awesome. For example, that little princess, Yang Chiling, had contributed a lot of emotional points. She just didn't know if the little princess would be sent back to the capital. Yizhu, who was refining medicine, asked curiously, "You're quite the busybody." "She's already been thrown into elementary school by the secret police." A mischievous glint flashed across Yuyu's face. She immediately jumped off the table, rushed to Yizhu, and hugged his thigh tightly. She innocently asked, "What did you say to the Empress in the harem 5 years ago?" Yiju's expression instantly turned cold. "Don't ask what you shouldn't." He pulled the little cat off his leg as he spoke, but Yiyu was clinging too tightly. With a ripping sound, a large hole was torn in his pants. Yiju clenched his fists. His killing intent was almost palpable. Looking at the torn cloth in her hand, Yu awkwardly twitched the corners of her mouth. She really didn't do it on purpose. Yiju gritted out, "If you tear my clothes again, I'll tear you apart." He then picked up a large iron pot for physical training and locked Yu inside. "Let's see if I can't exhaust you to death." After the training, Yu, full of energy, couldn't stay still. Seeing Yu Huji pacing outside the study for a long time, she immediately took out her slingshot. A pebble hit Yu Huji's head. He cried out in pain. Yu took the opportunity to question him, "What are you sneaking around for?" Yu Huji stammered uncomfortably, "I have something to ask General Yi." Yu eyed the roast chicken in his hand. "This is for General Yi, right? But General Yi is in a bad mood. You'll likely get scolded if you go in now. Why don't you give it to me? I'm willing to risk it for General Yu." Yu Huji's eyes lit up. He handed over the roast chicken with both hands. "You're a righteous little general. But when you deliver it to General Yi, you must say I bought it." Before he could finish, Yu took a big bite of the chicken. Yu Huji was instantly dumbfounded. His mentality completely collapsed. Yu finally started to bully the soldiers in the camp. Although Yu was only 3 years old, no one could withstand her attacks, let alone these ordinary soldiers. She even dared to bully the general. Today, the little demon Yu tricked Yu Huji out of his roast chicken, and ate it right in front of him. Yu Huji could only watch Yu devour the chicken with a broken heart. In the evening, the army camp gave up fireworks. Everyone was happily preparing for a play. Only Yu Huji paced anxiously outside Yi Just study. Today was New Year's Eve. If he didn't make his request now, he wouldn't have another chance. But that damned roast chicken without it, it was even harder to ask. Yi Ju impatiently opened the door and stared at him. You've been pacing outside my study for days. What do you want? Yu Huji immediately knelt down, hugging Yi Just's thigh and crying. I'm not young anymore. I've been the deputy general for so many years and am still single. I don't dare go home for New Year's every year, afraid of being laughed at by the villagers. Yi Ju was speechless. After so many years of war, your village is probably gone, right? Yu Huji froze for a moment, then continued to wail, I don't care. I'm being laughed at for not having a wife. Yi Ju sighed, then after New Year's, he'll go to the capital and ask His Majesty to arrange a marriage for you. Yu Huji quickly shook his head. Please don't let me marry those noble ladies. I can't afford them. Yi Ju was getting impatient. Then who do you want to marry? Tell me. Yu Huji shyly scratched his head. I like Wen Dong. Can you give her to me? Just as he finished speaking, Yu popped out, hands on her hips, and declared, you want to steal Wen Dong from me? I don't agree. Yu Huji's heart sank. He burst into tears. Meanwhile, the Beiyu Imperial City was also holding a New Year's Eve banquet. The emperor hosted a grand banquet, inviting all civil and military officials and the royal family. The banquet hall was filled with chatter. I heard Princess Yuyang went to Lingju, right? She's probably staying in Yongan City for New Year's. Ah, the general and the princess watching the snow and stars at the border during New Year's. What a romantic story. The entire hall fell silent. The emperor and the Dongguo family heard everything clearly. The emperor smiled and raised his glass to the national teacher. National teacher, look at Yuyang, insisting on going to Lingju to find Yongan. National teacher Dongguo Wuji replied, Your Majesty is right. General Yi, the Marquis of Yongan, is renowned. Princess Yuyang, a cultivator at the midstage of Huangwu realm, is indeed somewhat lacking compared to him. However, the princess is of royal blood, and this alone is enough to compensate for the difference in cultivation. The noble consort also smiled and added, considering Yuyang's qualifications, she is indeed reaching above her station. But as long as the two children are happy together, status and cultivation are secondary. Inwardly, she was secretly pleased. Her father understood her. This way, they could address the emperor's wariness towards Yiju and tie the Yi family to the Dongguo clan. But the crown prince was not convinced. Imperial sister Yuyang is a princess with a second-rank title. How can marrying a mere border general be considered reaching above her station? Where is the face of the Beiyu imperial family? The noble consort almost crushed her wine glass. This foolish son didn't realize she and her father were on the same side. As expected, the Beiyu emperor's face darkened, and he stopped speaking. The atmosphere became tense. At this moment, an old eunuch hurried in and whispered something in the Beiyu emperor's ear. The next second, the Beiyu emperor flipped the table in anger. That Yiju. How dare he? The 3-year-old tyrant reigned supreme in the army camp. No one could control him. Countless poor soldiers were tormented. The 3 deputy generals sat in the snow, complaining to each other. Yu Huji was about to vomit blood. He had worked so hard to get half a roast chicken, and that little general had snatched it and eaten it. It was so embarrassing to go empty-handed to make his request. Yang Futong leaned over and asked, Where did you get the roast chicken? Yu Huji's smile froze. No, you heard wrong. I definitely didn't steal any roast chicken from your room. Li Xingyuan complained, You got off easy. The other day, the little general acted cute and tricked me into buying her a bunch of stuff. Not only did she make me spend money, but she also made me carry everything for her. Yang Futong quickly comforted them. Don't be angry. Let's go to Yongan City while we're on New Year's leave. I heard Wang Huafang brought some ladies from the capital. They sing so sweetly. The 2 men's spirits were instantly lifted, eager to go immediately. Yu, wearing 2 hidden microphones, had been eavesdropping around the corner. She jumped out, her face full of disdain. Did you hear that? Those stinky men say they want to marry you, but they are thinking about other women. This is what they call scumbags. Wendong's whole body trembled. Truly, if men could be relied on, sows would climb trees. Chushu also ran to Lxenjuan, pointing at him and scolding Zhng Nan. The two grown men were so scared they shivered. Who knew? Zhu Hong also ran to Yang Ftofts side and yelled at him, "I'll blow you up." She chased after DNG, apologizing profusely, "It wasn't me, I didn't do it. I was tricked by Fu Jingjin. I really have no interest in other young ladies." Lxenjuan also blamed Fu Jingjin for Chux's mistake, "It's all General Fu's fault. I don't know what kind of illusion technique or flower style he's talking about, has never been there." Zhu Hong patted Yang Ftoft comfortingly, "Why didn't you chase after me instead?" Yang Ftoft replied with a strange expression, "Chase after you. You're silly, and after you finish being silly, you'll be silly too." "Forget it," he said, "I'd rather go listen to the young ladies sing by myself." Yo-Yo stared at FNGZHNG's points. She sighed, "The world of adults is really too complicated." Just then, Yi suddenly pushed the door open and said coldly, "Come in." At the same time, the palace was in chaos. Tai Jian quietly informed Gifi that Marquis Yngn is truly ruthless. He actually killed all 500 of the princess guards. Princess Yuyang was greatly shocked and even lost consciousness for a while. Gifi was both furious and terrified. She thought, this Yi is too arrogant and reckless. I absolutely cannot be associated with him. Gifi then asked, "Where is 17th princess?" "I haven't seen her." Pai Jianheng replied, "The little princess hasn't returned." Gifi, though surprised that Yang Chling hadn't died, quickly thought of an accusation. "So, Yi is holding the princess of Bu hostage. How dare he?" She secretly gloated, "Yi is holding the princess hostage. This is a slap in the face of the royal family. He holds military power and detains the princess. Yi wants to rebel. Who would have thought a 3-year-old could do this?" The soldiers in the camp were completely defenseless. They even ran away frantically as soon as they saw her. Because Yo-Yo bullied the soldiers in the camp all day long, even General Fu, who was in charge, was embarrassed. Yi, who thought Yo-Yo was too naughty, called her into the study. He pulled out a pink dress and threw it over her head, burying her entirely. Yo-Yo struggled, "Do you want to suffocate me? This is child abuse." Yi realized the dress was a bit big, but it didn't matter, children grow fast anyway. Yo-Yo was about to take the dress off and throw it away, but upon touching it, she found it somewhat familiar. She quickly pulled Yi's sleeve and compared them. Sure enough, the fabrics of the two garments were the same. Yi made new clothes precisely because he was afraid she would tear his clothes again. Fortunately, this time Yo-Yo didn't tear them. Yu's eyes welled up with tears. Yi actually made clothes for her. Judging by the quality, it wasn't WNDNG or Chux's handiwork, so it must have been made by that mysterious handsome man. She imagined the year-old mysterious handsome man working on the dress by the lamplight. Yo-Yo was filled with imagination. Yi proudly explained, "This is made of special material, impervious to swords, spears, poison, and fire." As soon as he finished speaking, Yo-Yo mercilessly tore a small hole in the dress, clearly trying to prove him wrong. Yi angrily called her name, his eyes full of warning. Yo-Yo obediently put on the dress, complaining, "Why? You scared me, but why did you suddenly make me clothes? Couldn't you just have WNDNG and Chushu do it?" Yi then told her, "I'm leaving for a while, and your butler grandpa is going with me." Yo-Yo immediately panicked, "If butler grandpa leaves, I'll starve again." Yi was a little annoyed and emphasized through gritted teeth, "He and I are leaving together." But Yo-Yo was still concerned about butler grandpa, "When will he be back? Where are you going? Is it dangerous?" Yi sighed in defeat, "Just a few days, we'll be back soon." Yo-Yo breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that butler grandpa had left a lot of food, which should last a few days. She didn't even mention Yi's departure. Yi was speechless. This little rascal was heartless. That afternoon, Yi and butler Zhng rode away on horseback. Yo-Yo reluctantly saw them off to the edge of the camp. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Butler grandpa, you must come back soon." Butler Zhng also said lovingly, "Little general, take care of yourself. I'll make you delicious food when I return." The old man and the little girl looked at each other with tears in their eyes, as if they were parting forever. Yi couldn't stand it anymore, and slapped his horse's rump. The two horses galloped away. Yo-Yo suddenly felt empty inside, not knowing when they would return. Just then, Yang Ftoft rushed over. Spiritual Training Progress Assessment. "Please, little general, come and preside over the situation. Zhu Hong also suddenly rushed out. Little General, urgent report. Yo-Yo was stunned. What's going on? What does this have to do with me? Who would have thought that a group of well-trained soldiers couldn't defeat a 3-year-old child? Yo-Yo had been having so much fun running wild in the camp today. Yi Si decided to let Yo-Yo be the commander of the Buyi army. So, after Yi Si left, the unsuspecting Yo-Yo was bombarded with noise. This one asked her to check the training progress. That one asked her to assess the core soldiers' training progress. Yo-Yo was completely busy. What does this have to do with a 3-year-old like me? Soon, Shi and Luo also rushed over. They ran and shouted, making the ground shake. My defense system needs these new recruits. What are you fighting me for? You're unreasonable. These recruits are obviously more suitable for my team. The two argued and fought all the way to Yo-Yo, demanding her to mediate. Before Yo-Yo could react, Zhu Hong pushed the other three aside. We'll deal with your matters later. He pulled Yo-Yo and ran. The urgent intelligence is more important. Little General, hurry up and take a look. Yo-Yo pointed at herself dumbfounded. Wait, why should I handle these matters? Zhu Hong whispered to her, of course it's you. General Yi said that when he's not around, you are the commander of the Buyi army. We all have to listen to you. Yo-Yo exploded. Let a 3-year-old kid manage the army. Is Yi Si out of his mind? I knew that damn Yi Si had ulterior motives for giving me new clothes. He was setting me up. Afterwards, the lieutenants of the Buyi army stood in a row in the study, respectfully watching little General Yo-Yo presiding over the army with a serious look. Tell me, what's the urgent report from the capital? Zhu Hong stepped forward to report. Yi Loda of Bu killed the prince's entourage, causing an uproar in the court. Everyone is saying that Yi Loda disrespected the emperor and acted recklessly. Yo-Yo looked confused and asked if anyone had a solution. Shi, Luo, and Yang Ftofd all shook their heads. Zhu Hong, the sly old fox, cunningly passed the buck, asking, what do you think, little general? Yo-Yo blurted out, let's just rebel against Bu. Yang Ftofd instantly spat out his tea, and lost a bunch of points. Shi excitedly waved his fist, really? I'll gather the brothers right now. Luo panicked, wait, what? I'm not ready. Zhu Hong quickly jumped out and shouted, stop. Wait a minute, everyone calm down. Yo-Yo casually replied, then we won't rebel. Her eyes were glued to the system panel, delighted that she had earned so many points with just one sentence. Shi was disappointed. What a great opportunity. The others glared at him. You're part of the Defense Legion. Why do you always think about rebelling and fighting? Zhu Hong wiped the cold sweat off his brow. Did Yi Loda choose the wrong person? Is little General reliable? Yo-Yo slapped the table. All right, let's get down to business. Suddenly, a member of the Shadow Guard appeared and only shouted report. Before falling silent, he just stared intently at Yo-Yo, making her feel uneasy. Just say it. What are you staring at me for? Zhu Hong quickly explained. He's asking if you want him to report now, if he can report, or if he should report. Because there are non-Shadow Guard members present, he doesn't dare to speak rashly. The three lieutenants' eyes lit up, looking at Yo-Yo curiously, all wanting to experience live intelligence gathering. Yo-Yo asked kindly, Uncle, what happened? Who would have thought a 3-year-old toddler would be the commander of a million-strong army? Yu had just become the commander-in-chief a few minutes ago. A messenger urgently reported that the Hanliaoguo army had invaded the northern border. Yu was stunned. How could she have to face such a chaotic situation right after taking office? The three deputy generals, Yu Huzi and the others, were also shocked. How could there be a sudden invasion? Wasn't a truce signed before the new year? Doesn't Hanliaoguo celebrate the new year? Only Zhu Hong remained calm, asking the messenger to elaborate. The messenger continued to report that the Hanliaoguo army, totaling men, was divided into 3 groups. 2 groups had already broken through the Bio army's defenses and occupied 2 important locations, Qingqing and another. The 3rd group, consisting of Chongqing soldiers, was kilometers away from Chongqing. Yu Huzi, Yang Futong, and Li Xingyuan, the generals of these 3 camps, were instantly panicked. Yu and Zhu Hong felt sympathetic towards them. This was clearly targeted at the 3 of them. Yu reacted quickly. Weren't you 3 supposed to go to Yongan City this morning? This back and forth created a time difference. The 3 deputy generals nodded. Yes, but we didn't go. They still hadn't realized the connection. Yu suddenly looked at Zhu Hong. That young lady from Yongan City is a spy. Zhu Hong also realized the trap. A glint of coldness flashed in his eyes. I'll investigate immediately. Yu looked at the 3 deputy generals. Under normal circumstances, would the three armies station troops together? Yu Huzi answered without hesitation. Normally, they definitely wouldn't be stationed together to avoid, but that damned Han Miran is playing dirty. Li Xingyuan also said, the soldiers aren't afraid. They will fight to the death if they encounter the enemy. But now the generals are away, and the lack of command is a big problem. Yu looked at Yang Futong. The Han Liaoguo enemy has reached kilometers from Chongqing. Is there still time to respond? Yang Futong quickly replied, there's still time. I'll rush to Chongqing on my 1,000-mile horse. I'll take my leave now. He left swiftly. Due to the urgency, Yu Huzi and Li Xingyuan also quickly left to return to their camps. Yu was very worried. Have the Fang Yujun and Qingqing already engaged in battle? Zhu Hong answered, yes. Caught off guard, the losses are incalculable. Yu panicked even more. Such a big incident happened right after Yechi left. What will I tell him if we lose? Every bio soldier is precious to Yechi. And they have all contributed a lot of experience. Points to me, she decisively told Zhu Hong, don't mind me. I have Biangu with me. Zhu Hong went to investigate the young lady from the capital without another word. Yu was alone in the study, looking at a document and a map. The map showed the distribution of Chongqing, Feng Yujun, and Qingqing. The huge sand table clearly marked the mountains and rivers. Suddenly, Yu noticed a small mark. It was labeled Shadow Canyon. She looked down at the pink new clothes. It was lightweight, supposedly invulnerable to swords and fireproof. Suddenly, Yu had a flash of inspiration. Aha! I know. She put on the Qingyu Shuani while jumping off the table and running out, shouting Biangu's name. Yu was finally going to utilize Biangu again. Biangu didn't want to follow the Devil King at all. He always felt his lifespan would be shortened by half. But Yu was the commander of the Bio army. Now, the Han Liaoguo army was invading the northern border. If he didn't help the group of extras, he would definitely be punished by Yechi. So, Yu decided to go to Shadow Canyon to find helpers. But how could she do great things without Biangu? Yu climbed onto Biangu while asking, Biangu, can you fly? Biangu immediately played dead. He heard something terrifying. Then Yu asked, Biangu, can you jump off a cliff? Biangu was instantly shocked and terrified. Does she want to commit suicide with me? But Yu had already climbed onto Biangu, pulling on the reins and shouting, go. To the mountain next to Shadow Canyon. Biangu stretched his neck, refusing to go. No. No. I don't want to die. Yu sternly said to Biangu, do you want to help your lord Yechi? Do you want to help the Bio soldiers? Biangu nodded frantically. Of course I do. He was a loyal horse. Then listen to me and take me to Shadow Canyon. Successfully brainwashed, Yu patted Biangu. Biangu immediately flew away like a rocket. Soon, the girl and the horse arrived at a huge mountain. There was a huge pit in the center, surrounded by mountains. Yu carefully observed and confirmed that this was indeed the place where she had fallen before. Then, Yu looked around and saw a steep cliff nearby. She immediately urged Biangu to climb the mountain. Biangu immediately flew up, his forehooves like they were equipped with rockets. He ran so fast that he stirred up snow and wind, his speed like lightning. The originally difficult and steep mountain was like flat ground under Biangu's hooves. Yu experienced Biangu's full speed for the first time and couldn't help but exclaim, Biangu, you are amazing. You can even climb cliffs. Biangu became even more energetic. At an almost impossible speed, he crossed the peak and then raised his head high, letting out a proud neigh, as if declaring his prowess. Yu looked down at the Shadow Canyon below. The extreme height made her a little nervous, and she couldn't help but grab the reins tightly. Then she excitedly pointed to the bottom of the cliff, telling Biangu to jump down. Biangu instantly played dead. Human, are you talking about suicide? I don't want to die yet. Yu's eyes flickered with madness. Biangu, you won't fall to death, right? Biangu neighed inexplicably. I'm special. Of course, I won't fall to death. Yu herself had fallen from the sky and hadn't died. So, Yu patted Biangu and jumped onto his back. Biangu gritted his teeth and rushed forward. Fine, fine. For Lord Yechi. Biangu jumped off the cliff without hesitation. Then came a rapid descent. The girl and the horse screamed at the top of their lungs. Yu looked around. Come out quickly. I know you're here. The next second, a giant bird flew by, with flames on its body. It was the Jujiao and the flame-flying bird together. Yu's eyes lit up. They are really here. The Bio army is saved. Who would have thought that a 3-year-old toddler would be so lucky as to encounter a Jujiao? Come on. I want to fight that fire bird. Yinyou rode the Jujiao towards the flame-flying bird. The distance between the two birds rapidly shortened. Little chick, let me show you how it's done. Yinyou jumped towards the flame-flying bird. The flame-flying bird quickly dodged to the side, opening its beak to swallow her whole. Yinyou couldn't dodge in time and was about to be eaten. At this critical moment, an energy blast from somewhere hit the flame-flying bird's wing. The flame-flying bird was knocked off balance and looked back to see where the energy came from. It was now or never. Yinyou seized the opportunity and threw out her lasso. The lasso caught the flame-flying bird's neck. Surrender, or I'll turn you into roast chicken. She then yanked the rope. The flame-flying bird's eyes almost popped out. Yinyou used the momentum to flip onto the flame-flying bird's back. Then she grabbed its scruff. This was the experience she had gained from riding the Jujiao. As expected, the flame-flying bird instinctively froze. The bird couldn't bear it and had to obey Yinyou, flying towards Li Xingyuan's army. Yinyou arranged for Jujiao and Biangu to split up and provide support. At the same time, on a distant mountain peak, Yechi and Zhongguansha were standing there. Yechi withdrew the finger that had just released the energy blast and watched the two birds leave. Behind him, Zhongguansha cheered excitedly. Well done. The little general is amazing. Lord Biangu is amazing too. Yechi was exasperated. It's a good thing I took you away. With your level of doting, she would be spoiled rotten. Zhongguansha retorted discontentedly, who's doting? We have a good relationship. Yechi had to admit, Yinyou was indeed clever. She had found all the clues he had left. Zhongguansha immediately bragged, of course. It's all thanks to this old servant's teachings. Yechi was speechless. You're even taking credit for her intelligence. Zhongguansha said sheepishly, our little general is still young. This old servant must consider things for her. Yechi turned to look in the direction Yinyou had left, muttering something inaudible. Meanwhile, Yinyou sat on the flame-flying bird's back, looking at the system panel with a puzzled expression. It showed the emotional fluctuations of Yechi and Zhongguansha, contributing a large wave of experience points. Yinyou wondered, where did these experience points come from? Then she suddenly remembered the energy blast from earlier, precise and powerful. Immediately understood. Zuan Shiki clenched his fist. Go Yezi, are you kidding me? Huyen Faniaotong screamed. Yinyou quickly patted her head to comfort her, but it's strange. These two flying Yasho are clearly intelligent, but why don't they generate emotional points? Could it be that only humans can display emotional points? But why can Biangu? Yinyou suddenly had a flash of inspiration, a bold guess. Could it be that Biangu isn't? Yinyou is going to do something big again. In order to repel the barbarian army of Hanguo, Yinyou thought of the two large birds that descended from the sky. But this kind of thing can't be done without Biangu Dag's help. The simple-minded Biangu was successfully tricked by Yinyou, but this also successfully attracted Daoren Jujiao and Huyen Faniao. But the two have been arguing since the aerial traffic accident. Jujiao directly unfolded its meter wings and flung them at Faniao. Each feather was like a sharp, wind-powered blade. Faniao was knocked back, then suddenly shot a burst of flames high into the air, which slammed onto Jujiao with a loud boom. A raging fire ignited on Jujiao. Jujiao was also enraged and roared, ready to counterattack. Jujiao's body ignited in raging flames. Enraged, Jujiao roared, preparing to retaliate. It looked like they were about to fight to the death. Yinyou frantically waved, Two-bird Dage, please help. But he was still falling rapidly. The strong wind distorted his words into abababa. However, Jujiao and Faniao also noticed him. They were stunned at the sight. They couldn't help but recall the incident caused by Yinyou's fall from the sky, which led to the two birds holding a grudge against each other. Now, seeing their culprit, the two birds immediately abandoned their mutual hatred. This human Yinyou actually dares to come back. Yinyou wasn't afraid of them, but time was of the essence. So, Yinyou casually pulled out Biangu's long hair from her ring. She had collected these hairs and turned them into a long rope. With a swift flick of her wrist, Yinyou threw it. The long hair transformed into a lasso, directly looping around Jujiao's head. Then, with a skillful twist, Yinyou jumped onto Jujiao's back, and pulled Biangu up as well. Jujiao angrily flapped its wings, trying to throw them off. But Yinyou clung tightly to the feathers on Jujiao's neck, refusing to let go even with all her might. Yinyou's grip was so tight that it caused Jujiao immense pain. Wanting to shake off this nuisance, Jujiao didn't dare to flap too violently. Yinyou was finally able to speak normally. Biangu, can you beat him? Without hesitation, Biangu let out a roar, rose up, and stomped hard on Judiao's back. This kick almost broke Judiao's spine. Jujiao rolled its eyes and plummeted downwards, seemingly about to fall to its death. Jujiao finally snapped back to its senses. This time, Jujiao was completely subdued by the human Yinyou. Yinyou clapped her hands, great. Now only Huyen Feiniao is left. At this moment, Feiniao, seeing its old enemy's plight, immediately spread its wings and flew away. Yinyou immediately jumped onto Judiao's head, and directed him to fly after Feiniao. Jujiao seemed to understand Yinyou's words and immediately accelerated towards Feiniao. Flying alongside Feiniao, Yinyou commanded, Ding, take Jujiao to General Yu. Have Jujiao help him quickly return to the battlefield. I'll go find Li Xingyan with this Feiniao. After saying that, she jumped towards Feiniao. Feiniao, with fierce eyes, opened its beak wide, attempting to swallow Yinyou in one gulp. The 3-year-old toddler, in order to fly, not only subdued Jujiao, but also made Feiniao obedient, and sent them both with Biangu to provide support. Riding Feiniao, Yinyou followed the path to Kixing's location, and finally arrived above the long Grand Canyon. Yinyou controlled Feiniao to fly lower, close to the ground, to search for Li Xingyan. Feiniao obediently lowered its altitude, diving down in a swoop. She indeed found Li Xingyan's troops. On the snowy ground in the canyon ahead, Li Xingyan was riding Qianliju at high speed. He was worried about Kixing's situation, his heart burning with anxiety. At that moment, a flaming bird flew down from the sky. Li Xingyan was instantly startled. What bad luck! He couldn't help but curse. Yinyou was completely ignored because she was still a small human child, held by Feiniao, and Li Xingyan simply didn't see her. Yinyou promptly took out her ring, and pulled out the ever-useful lasso. She threw it with force, accurately lassoing Li Xingyan's waist, hooking onto his armor. Yinyou chuckled, Xiaohua, fly. Feiniao obediently flapped its wings and soared into the sky, carrying Li Xingyan with it. Li Xingyan was instantly stunned, completely bewildered as to why he was being captured. Just then, a childish voice came from above, General Li, don't move, I'll take you there. Li Xingyan was instantly dumbfounded. But now wasn't the time for small talk. Feiniao's speed was far greater than Li Xingyan's horse. It wasn't long before they arrived above the battlefield. By now, the ground below was engulfed in flames. Hanguo's army was vast, marching in neat formations and pressing against Beiyu's army. Beiyu's Kixing's troops were clearly outnumbered and at a disadvantage. Li Xingyan immediately took out his ring, and pulled out a 2-meter-long large bow. This bow shimmered with golden light, its material unknown. It was Yinyou's first time seeing Li Xingyan's weapon, which was several times bigger than herself. She gaped in awe. And this bow had no string. In the next second, Li Xingyan pulled the bowstring. A bowstring materialized in his hand, formed from pure energy. Then he abruptly fired towards the Hanguo army camp. A gigantic energy arrow, as long as a dragon, shot out. The arrow, surrounded by swirling energy, whistled as it plunged into the enemy ranks. The powerful energy exploded with a boom, instantly obliterating thousands of soldiers. Amidst the explosion of the first arrow, Li Xingyan drew his bow again, and shot a second energy arrow. Yinyou was thoroughly impressed. General Li is so amazing. He alone can hold back such a powerful force. He truly deserves to be one of the 3 great generals of Boy Army. At that moment, Yinyou suddenly had an idea. She quickly plucked a long feather from Feiniao. She handed it to Li Xingyan, and told him to shoot it out with the arrow. Let's make things even bigger. The adorable 3-year-old, for fun, not only subdued Jujiao, but also tamed Feiniao. But what Yinyou enjoyed most was lassoing from the sky, never missing a target, bringing Li Xingyan above the warring armies. Yinyou unceremoniously plucked another feather from Feiniao. Use this to tie it to the energy arrow and make a rocket. Let's roast them like pigs. Li Xingyan drew his bow to its fullest extent, his calm gaze radiating an irresistible killing intent. In the next second, the energy arrow, carrying flames, shot down with a whoosh. It landed directly in the Hanguo army's camp, exploding with a deafening boom. In addition to being killed by the powerful energy, a large fire also erupted, instantly turning the battlefield into a sea of flames. Yinyou was utterly stunned, clapping her hands and cheering, General Li, well done. Then, while saying, Xiaohua, you've worked hard, she quickly plucked more of Feiniao's feathers. Feiniao cried silently. This master was truly too ruthless. So, Li Xingyan, with a bag full of feathers on his back, stood on Feiniao's back. Being airborne allowed him to perform better, and he assured Yinyou that he would be careful. Li Xingyan, from his vantage point, looked like a descending god, drawing his bow again and again. Energy arrows, carrying immense power and flames, continuously exploded within the Hanguo army's ranks. His appearance was like a stabilizing force. The Beiyu army's morale soared, and they drove the Hanguo army into a scattered retreat. How could Yinyou just stand by and watch? This was a great opportunity to earn points. She immediately ordered Feniao to dive down, fly lower. In the next second, Feniao, like a giant fireball, swooped downwards. Yinyou took out her lasso from her ring. "I'll teach you to mess around. Time to deal with you." She swiftly lassoed Hanguo soldiers. Don't underestimate her small stature. The rope in her hands danced like a whirlwind, whipping the Hanguo soldiers until they were screaming in pain. And it's also for personal use. A small mass firmly enveloped by the flame bird's flames. Hanguo soldiers couldn't see him, so they started to observe the sea of flames with great interest. How come there's no one on that flame bird? Could that person be invisible and running fast? Wu Yijun not only has a flying belt, but also an invisibility cloak. Yinyou was simply ecstatic. Bian Jiyu, whose face became even more smug, as he let out a devilish laugh. Just then, Zhu Jia's anxious voice rang out from afar. Yinyou turned around and saw Bian Jiyu standing at the foot of a nearby mountain, waving anxiously at him. Yinyou, thinking something had happened, hurriedly retracted Bian Zi and loaded it with ammunition. He commanded the flame bird to fly him over. Only when he got closer did he see Bian Jiyu jumping and waving frantically, his face flushed. The system panel showed that Bian Jiyu was spamming skills. Notifications kept popping up. Yinyou was dumbfounded. This silly horse was actually jealous of him riding Xiaohua. As soon as Yinyou jumped off the flame bird, Bian Jiyu rushed up to him, laid down on the ground, and revealed his handsome back. "Hurry up and ride me." Speechless, Yinyou could only spread his little legs and sit on his back. Bian Jiyu was finally satisfied. Yinyou patted Bian Gus's head with amusement. "Let's go see how Yu Huji is doing." Qian Jiyu Dag is actually jealous. He saw Yinyou riding another mount. He should be killing enemies on the battlefield. Bian Jiyu was so angry that smoke was coming out of his ears. He blamed Yinyou for being two-faced. But as soon as Yinyou got off the flame bird, he immediately and obediently offered his back. Yinyou was speechless. Did he look that scary? But to appease Bian Gus's hurt feelings, Yinyou still cooperated and climbed onto his back. All right, let's go find Yu Jun. Just as he was about to leave, Yinyou saw Xiaohua acting strangely. The flame bird stood there stiffly, its tail drooping, not daring to move. Yinyou felt quite embarrassed. Not only did he use him, but he also gave him a lot of trouble. Yang Ming said, "It's all right now, Xiaohua, you can go home." Hearing that he could finally leave, the flame bird let out a happy neigh and raised its head high. It then displayed an extremely swift maneuver. Bian Jiyu looked on smugly. "See, I am his most important mount. Other mounts are not worthy." Yinyou patted his head. "Now is not the time to be happy. We should hurry up and check on Yu Jun's battle situation." Then Yinyou spurred Bian Jiyu to quickly rush towards the defense army's battlefield. Bian Jiyu, in a good mood, ran even faster. They soon arrived above Xia Valley. Below, sand and dust flew everywhere, obscuring everything. Only the deafening sounds of killing could be heard. Yinyou was immediately shocked. The killing was so intense. Are they sure this is a defense army? Who has ever seen a defense army fight so fiercely? Yinyou urged Bian Jiyu to climb to the top of the mountain. "Can we see the battlefield clearly from here?" It was then that he realized Dao Ren Ju Dao was not there. Could it be that he left after sending Yu Jun to the battlefield? Yinyou immediately felt a sense of disdain. That Ju Dao is too unreliable. But soon he had no time to think about this. Yinyou looked down into the valley and immediately understood that seemingly simple-minded Yu Huji could actually come up with such a good strategy. He's too smart. He had set up circular formations, dividing the enemy, and then the defense army, holding their shields, killed the enemies within their own circles. Soon the ground was covered in blood. Moreover, each small formation was constantly rotating, supporting each other. Yu Huji was at the center, holding a large flag and commanding the troops. He shouted, "Contract." Each small circle instantly shrank. The enemy troops who had just charged in were separated by the defensive circles. Then he shouted, "Expand." And then the defense army repeated the process of killing, slaughtering the enemy troops relentlessly. Yinyou watched, dumbfounded. He didn't expect this could be done. No wonder Yu Huji was so excited when he heard about the battle. He really is capable of killing. The best defense is indeed a good offense. It seemed that there was no problem on Yu Huji's side. Yu immediately mounted Bian, preparing to go check on Yang Futong's side. So, the boy and his horse quickly galloped away. For a 3-year-old human child, trying to command an entire army was truly exhausting. A 3-year-old toddler leading an army for the first time in battle made the enemy troops flee in terror. More powerful than any veteran general, expertly dividing the enemy. And the defense army under Yu Huji's command was also very fierce, killing the enemy until they couldn't fight back. Yu felt there was no need for him to worry here. He urged Bian towards Yang Futong's direction. But before they had gone far, they saw Yang Futong's heavy cavalry army charging in. The heavy iron hooves thundered, making a hong sound. The ground trembled. Yang Futong, at the front, had a solemn and dignified expression, his broadsword held horizontally, and a murderous aura emanating from him. Yu didn't expect Yang Futong to come over so quickly. Could it be that there were no enemy troops on his side? He couldn't help but ask, Yang Jiangjun, why are you here? What about Henguo's troops? Yang Futong said proudly, all killed. Yu's smile instantly froze. You, a woman, are so fierce. Looking at the heavy cavalry behind her, all unharmed, he couldn't help but exclaim, amazing, Yang Fujiangjun. Just then, the thunderous sound of hooves rang out again. Yu Huji led the defense army and charged over rapidly. The two armies met head-on, with a human toddler in between. For a moment, the scene was extremely tense. The two leading generals stared at each other, both with shocked expressions. Yang Futong spoke first, Yu Huji, why are you going back? Yu Huji patted his chest proudly. Didn't I kill them all? Now I'm going to support Li Jiangjun. By the way, Yang Jiangjun, why are you here? Yang Futong pointed at herself proudly. I killed them all. I'm here to support you, Jiangjun. Yu Huji was very unhappy upon hearing this. My defense army is invincible. Do we need your support? The two were arguing fiercely when Li Xingyuan also led the Qixi army at a gallop. Seeing this scene, he understood. Why are they here? He had rushed over to help them kill the enemy. Yang Futong looked at him with disdain. Who are you looking down on? Yu Huji was also full of disdain. Just your slow, gentle troops. By the time you arrive, I would have already killed all the enemy troops. Seeing that the three were about to start fighting, Yu quickly jumped out to mediate. Stop arguing. Your camp is exposed. Hurry up and find another place to set up camp. Inwardly, he was very disdainful. Being able to fight is so great. Without me, Yu Daren's leadership, you are just a bunch of brainless brutes. Back at the new camp, Yu immediately went to the study to look up information. Although they had won, they couldn't let their guard down. So he still needed to look for any other information left behind by Yi Ci to be fully prepared. And he actually found information on 3 generals. It turned out to be messages between Yu Huji, Li Xingyuan and Yang Futong. Yu curiously opened them, and was instantly shocked. Yu Huji was actually a street thug before. Yu immediately became interested and continued reading, wanting to see what unknown secrets they had. Maybe it would be useful in the future, like for blackmailing them. Just thinking about it made him happy. When a 3-year-old toddler makes such an expression, be careful. He's definitely planning something mischievous. In order to better defend against enemy raids, Yu went to the defense platform to see if Yi Ci had left any other clues. He accidentally saw the correspondence between Yu Huji, Li Xingyuan and Yang Futong. Yu's eyes lit up. Good stuff. Blackmail material. Who doesn't love it? He'll see how he can use this to blackmail them. When he saw Yu Huji's information, Yu was shocked. He didn't expect Yu Huji to have been a street thug. Looking at his silly appearance, Yu couldn't imagine him as a gangster. He continued reading. It turned out that since the two countries went to war, he had become a vagrant, wandering from town to town. He would simply rob anything he liked, and even kill if he didn't get it. The common people could only let him do as he pleased. Because Yu Huji has been training his physique, although he doesn't have any attribute aptitude or weapon talent, he is simply purely physically strong. He is skilled in defensive formations, and the Zun Lu Zhuan Fengzhen. Yu's eyes lit up. So that formation that looks like a blooming flower is called Zun Lu Zhuan Fengzhen. Yu quickly continued reading, wanting to learn it, but unfortunately, there was no relevant information about this formation.